Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of the Sporting Chance podcast. While you're here, check out the sportingchancepod.com for all the flyest merch and a complete catalog of the episodes. And check out Clover Creek Canine on Facebook for performance canines bred by friend of the show, Shawn O'Neill. Do yourself a favor, get a lurcher, get a special, get a truck terrier, whatever it is, you can't go wrong. And while we're at it, this podcast is brought to you by A Journey with Red Tails. Order the book by author Bob Glass at ajourneywithredtails.com. And for all of your tightest falconry equipment, check out midnightfalconry.com. And let's not forget mountainstatefalconrysupply.com for your premier East Coast falconry supply store. Let's not forget your boy, my boy, everyone's boy, Seth Roy, NorthMountainGoshawks.com for your parent-reared goshawk hunting partner for the 2025 hunting season. Welcome, everyone, to an exciting episode of the Sporting Chance podcast. I'm Aaron Kincaid.
And I'm Casey Everett.
And shortly, we will be joined by two very special guests recorded live once again in her dining room, Teddy Moritz and Shawn O'Neill together for the first time in, what did he say, 16 years?
I was gonna round up to 20, but yeah, I think it was like 16 years.
20 would sound better, but I think truth be told, it was like 16.
Yeah,
which is still a long
crazy.
Time.
Oh yeah, especially like somebody like you hunted with every single day for years. Like, because he was an actor. Well, he talks about it in that episode, but. So he was like an actor, and like when he was waiting for gigs and when he was getting work, if he didn't have work, he was just in the field with Teddy, running dogs and digging groundhogs and everything else, you know?
They share some nonstop. Super crazy stories. Super crazy. So.
Oh, dude, I was thinking about the story that he told, that one story of the
kid and the shotgun.
The kid, the shotgun, the tongue, the blood. Helicopter.
Yeah,
crazy story.
Make sure you stick around for that. So leading into it, we wanted to talk a little bit about our first year with the world's #1 falconry podcast, The Sporting Chance.
Correct. That is a undisputed fact of reality. So we're proud to hold it, and we carry the weight on our shoulders.
That's right.
Very broad shoulders.
That's right. Between the two of us. So yeah, man, we've managed to build a little bit of a community. We've sold hundreds of shirts all across
thousands
the world.
Of shirts.
No, I mean, we legitimately have sold hundreds of shirts.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot.
Which is kind of how this whole thing started. The very first shirt we made with the design on the back honoring Teddy, that came out before the podcast was a reality.
Correct. Yeah, it did.
And we had sold, God, I don't know.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. And those aren't even those are before the episode, the website was even up, and we were getting orders for those shirts.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just taking orders through Instagram messages. It was a complete mess.
Yeah. It's a nightmare.
So we did. I don't even know how many of those we sold. I think it was maybe like 150 of that original design we sold. And it said nothing about our podcast on it.
I know, that was like the one thing that we like. I mean, for me personally, right, I didn't like regret not putting our website on it, but like after they like sold out, we had to make a whole nother run of them. We were both like, we should have put our podcast name on there or something.
Well, it didn't exist, so what could we have done?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was it's pretty crazy. And I don't even remember how it was your idea, right, Aaron? It wasn't really mine to start the podcast. I wanted to do one.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it to you, and you were like, "Dude, I've been thinking about doing it."
Yeah, and I'm just, I don't have the time for anything. So, and then when Aaron was like, "No, we should do it. I really think we should do it," and then it just like happened, and it's a year later already. It's crazy.
Yeah,
And we're both still learning to like interview and talk to people. I'm learning to shut up.
You sure you're learning?
Yeah, apparently I'm not learning because I'm still fucking talking. But but it's been great, man. We've met some cool people. We got invited on some cool hunts. People are like fans of us. Like, shout out to everybody that supports the podcast. We're super grateful.
So yeah, episode 1 was just us kind of riffing about dachshunds and falconry, and I can't stand to listen to it. It's just too painful for me to hear.
Yeah, I was thinking we should do another one because that's my on social media. That's my number one, like most consistent. Besides, like why doesn't the hawk attack the bird? Why doesn't the hawk attack the dogs? Is that question, and then the most common is people asking like, I have a dachshund and I want to train it to do that. Like, what do I do? And I don't even like.
Right.
I just say we did an episode on it, and I just send them the link, and I don't even remember how good it was or not. But I figure it's a good place for them to start.
Well, early on, I feel like I was like too vulgar. I cussed too much and said too many nasty things.
Why? When you found out Teddy's been going through our episodes, listening to them one by one, you started getting self-conscious.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Same with me. I was like, she's like, "Oh, I listened to the Kirk Price episode. That was very interesting." And I'm like, "Oh no, what did I say? Like, what did I say?
Shawn was mortified that she would go back and listen to that episode.
Oh,
he did. She did.
Yeah, oh yeah, and his episode was hilarious. But she's got to know that he's, they hunted all the time. He's got, and he said he never said a bad word around her, which is impressive. And
she has that.
I don't know if I could say the same. Yeah,
we're all on our best behavior with her.
Yes, for sure. So that was our first episode. Was that one?
Yep, that was the very first one we did, and then our first guest was Tyler Sladen, and that was a good one. That was a good one, but we were also very raunchy in that, and we were not keen to good audio software, so the audio was pretty bad in it.
That's a good point. Yeah, I remember making like the little clips of that, and the audio sounded very like kind of crappy when I was trying to edit it over the music and stuff. But it was still good though. And some of those reels, because of his footage and like, because that was like, for me, that was like the fun of it is like getting to ask the questions that I would like people to ask. Like I would like to know, instead of just DMing somebody and like asking them 50 questions, if they're interesting enough, or like, I'm like, hey, why don't you come on the show? And then I get to ask them all the questions that I want to ask them. And that's why it's annoying sometimes. And I may seem obnoxious on some of the episodes because you can kind of tell like if they're my guest or if they're Aaron's guest, or if they're a guest we both don't really know that well, but we want to have them on. And I'm talking incessantly is because I just like have a million questions I want to ask the person. So like that's why I talk so much, I think, because I want to get all my questions in.
You can definitely tell when you're very excited about a guest.
Yeah, because I don't shut up.
It's all good.
Or if Aaron's like, I don't even, who the heck is this person? Why are we even? Then I'm like, oh crap, I have to carry this one. So then I feel like I have to just keep asking a bunch of questions. No, it's dude, it's awesome. It's the podcast is fun. But listen, I'm sure you had a plan to shout out your wife Courtney, but like, I mean, this whole thing would literally not be possible without Courtney. So we have to thank Courtney. And if you guys are fans of the show and you're enjoying listening, I mean, the only reason why it exists and why it's continuing to exist is because of Courtney. She edits everything. She packages and ships all the t-shirts and merch. Gives us critiques on certain things. She cuts stuff out that she thinks should be cut out just based off of her just listening to it from an outsider's perspective. Like she's like the backbone for real. So special thank you to Courtney.
I appreciate you saying that. And yes,
It's a fact, man.
that's indicative of my life. She just kind of holds it all together.
Yeah. It's great, man. It's awesome. And yeah, I feel like when I'm when I'm talking and then I start saying something bad, like I'll just go into the mic.
Cut that out.
Courtney, cut that out. And I just feel like she's right there next to me. Like she's like, no problem.
A lot of times she comes to me and she's like, should I cut that out? And I go, absolutely not. And
yeah. But there has been times I think that you did cut some stuff out.
Absolutely. 100%.
I think I was saying I was rambling about something one time and I was like, oh crap. I'm like, Courtney, cut that out. And then like I listened to the episode.
I think you said the N word. You said the N word.
No. No, I didn't. Stop. No, I didn't. No, I did not.
You didn't, but it'd be funny if you did.
It would be funny, I guess. if you just ruined my life. But yeah. No, I didn't. No, but I've said some stuff that I definitely should have said, and some techniques that we all probably do or whatever, but I just vocalized them on a, as James would like to say, a archive of your words that can be used against you.
Ooh.
It's true, though.
It is true.
Yeah, a couple things had to get cut out because it could not be good, but it's not stuff that we would not talk about in person, but just stuff that recorded shouldn't really necessarily be. Because I guess with falconry, falconry is just, we got to do things as falconers and hunters. Maybe not as hunters. I don't know, though. You know what I mean?
Probably
like dog guys.
Probably not if you're just sitting in a tree stand with a rifle.
Yeah, it's like, I have to shoot this doe in its spine so that my son can learn how to kill it later.
I mortally wounded this doe to attract a big buck.
Yeah, exactly. I tied a string to this doe's leg so that my son could practice stabbing it to death. It's not the same. No. It's not the same thing, but it's in what we do. Where it's part of the whole process of raising a bird and entering it. Not a passage bird, obviously, but imprinting is part of the sport. So there's certain things you got to do that are necessary. I mean, maybe some would argue not 100% necessary, but it's definitely helps speed up the process. And you definitely don't want to vocalize it.
You got to be careful. Got to keep it close to the chest.
Yeah.
Through the podcast, I've met a lot of really interesting, cool people that have been really helpful to me and very generous with me and giving with me. I've made some good friends through the podcast. So all in all, it's just been a net positive. It's been a lot of work. I think John Munier could tell you podcasts are a lot of work. That's why a lot of them start and don't do much.
Yeah, because it just becomes like this endless grind of getting guests and putting it out. And I mean, but listen, I'm not necessarily patting ourselves on the back, but it's been a year, and I mean, from episode 1 to now, I mean, you're talking exponential growth, like huge growth. And I think that's not the norm for most podcasts. I think most podcasts just put their heart and soul into episodes and then put them out there, and then they get like 40 downloads. And they're like, great, we're just going to keep going. And then it's like, eventually it just gets to a point where it's just like, you're talking to the wall and there's no traction. And then people just stop listening.
Right.
Or you just get tired of getting no interest. So you stop doing it. But I mean, for us, right, Aaron, I mean, it's just like, it's night and day. It's like, we're like from the first, 1 to 10 episodes, we were in the top. I mean, we're just about a year in. So at one point, Aaron sent me the metrics and we were like in the top 0.1% or something of podcasts, new podcasts. Like,
well, just all podcasts in general.
Yeah. At our stage, we should not have the views that we're having, and we are having them. So it was like, we were already on a good trajectory upwards, and it's just continuing to go upwards with each episode. And, that's not like our skill necessarily, and we're kind of like, there's only 3 games in town, There's only 3 places you're going. You're going to us. You're going to Fat Bird. You're going to Mounier, Falconry Chronicles, and that's it. There's no other Falconry podcast.
We also diversified and have other forms of hunting on our podcast. Yeah. We try and it's really just stuff we're interested in, because you and I are not just falconers. We do other forms of sport. So if it's interesting to us, we want to talk about it on the podcast. And obviously it's interesting to a lot of people out there.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Cause sometimes those episodes, not every time, but a lot of those episodes, they're like the biggest views when we get non-falconers on and stuff like that are just, maybe well known, or they have a super interesting thing. They're gonna, then people know them. And, I messaged a guy last night, man. It's a picture of a polar bear with a bullet hole in his chest inside of his tent by his sleeping bag. And I messaged him and I said, I just stumbled on your, this picture. Would you like to come on the show and talk about this? And he didn't respond to me yet. But like, you know what I mean? Like, if that guy comes on, I'd never heard of anybody having to kill a polar bear coming in their tent. That's not a common thing. So like, we're always something that's interesting to us. We're going to get them on, and we're not going to, I hate to use the word pigeonhole, but we're not going to pigeonhole ourselves or red-tail hawk ourselves into just doing falconry content.
Harris Hawk ourselves.
There you go. Good. And it's, and I think as falconers, and that's kind of the goal for me. And I think Aaron is like part of our goal is, number one, put out good content for you guys to listen to. And number two is to like kind of bridge the gap between like falconers and like regular hunters, because, we're not necessarily different from them. We just have a different means of take. And I've rambled about that for probably an hour, if you put all for the last year of the clips of me rambling about that.
I think there's plenty of falconers who don't have much in common with a big game hunter, but I do think there's a big group of falconers that do.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And a lot of...
and that's who we're trying to cater to.
Yeah. I mean, we're not fat bird, ugly dog. We're going to talk technical stuff. I mean, he's doing this new thing now, which is not super interesting. I mean, it's kind of interesting, but I understand his goal of it. It makes sense. It's clever, but it's not necessarily super entertaining. But the bread and butter of his podcast was, technical, kind of like, I hate to say dorky, but like, very informative podcast. Nothing's organic. Everything's pre-record, ours are pre-recorded, but it's like the questions are preloaded. Everything's cut and clipped so that it sounds perfect. Ours is more organic. John's is more of an interview style with set questions where you can, they're going to come, the piece of advice, best story, stuff like that. So like he kind of has like he has like a formula to what he likes to do in a podcast. We kind of do not. We kind of just want to just kind of see where the conversation goes and have a good conversation, and that's pretty much it.
And while we're thanking people, we should probably thank John. We need to thank John for loaning some expertise to us early on to help us get some sort of decent audio quality. My wife is the editor. She does a great job editing. She takes, something awful and turns it into something listenable. She cuts out all the annoying things that we do and the really vulgar things that we say. But John gave us some pro tips early on, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, shout out to John. Shout out to Mounier. Yeah, he hooked us up. Yeah, he definitely helped us out. He wasn't a douche about it. He said, "Listen, man, do your thing, but use this software, use this. Set your mic to this." Like he helped us out. He really did, and we're grateful to John. John's a friend of the show.
Friend of the show, one of the early guests too.
Yeah, he was. That was a fun episode. Drinking piss. That's pretty much all that episode was.
Oh no, that was another one. That was.
That was the other one. That's right. Yeah, no, his. Oh yeah, his was good. No, his was good. But then the Falconry Follies was pretty much that whole episode just revolved around me drinking piss. I had to hear about it from everybody that ever heard it, including my child, because my mom thought it would be nice to hear your daddy talk while we're in the car. And then my son, when I get, he's like, I want to drink pee like daddy. And I'm like, oh my, I'm like, Mom, like you can't just play the podcast in the background. Like
the Sporting Chance is not for children.
It's not necessarily for children. No. I mean, it'd be good to have it for kids. We've been, I don't know if you guys have been noticing, but we've been kind of cleaning some stuff up, not, swearing as much as we used to. But I mean, listen, man, we're here to have a conversation, and I'm not going to censor people that come on the show. And if they want to make hilarious, inappropriate jokes, like I am definitely not going to stop them. So
yeah.
And when you start bleeping stuff out, it's only funny. It's only nice. The bleep is only good if it makes it funny.
Yeah, we use the bleep for humor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Jake's episode was hilarious when we bleeped that out with his little. It was so funny. I listened to it yesterday.
Yeah, every now and then I'm listening to our show on my way to work and just cracking up because I don't remember half of the stuff we say.
Dude, I was at Tom Cullen's sister's house working, and I literally bursted out laughing in her basement. And she came to the top of the stairs and says, "You need me?" And I was like, No, I'm just listening to something. And it was us talking about Disney and why the rabbits look so, so good. I'm like, why these rabbits look so good? I'm like, why they got the eyelashes? What was that little tail bouncing around? It was so funny. I was dying.
Yeah,
shaking the high heel hoofs. That was great.
That might have been something you were asking to be cut out. I'm glad we left it in. I
said to cut it out, and you said absolutely not. Which was even funnier.
So, the stuff about, us censoring and all, it's kind of like our podcast ethics. That reminds me of something. You might hear some sponsors. We're going to plug sponsors at the beginning of the show, but you're not going to hear ads. Like you're not going to suddenly hear ads for like BetterHelp or MeUndies or something on the show. So for anyone listening, if they ever want to support us, you can buy merch. That's the way we're trying to raise money for the podcast.
Correct. Yeah, correct. It's at the end of the day, we're doing it for fun, but there are costs involved. Typical BS, speech. There are costs involved. There's time involved. Scheduling with guests. So yeah, if you want to support us, just buy the merch. That's it, pretty much. We got some good merch, man. I mean, it's worth buying. It's nice stuff.
Dude, speaking of the merch, that picture of Bear Newcomb wearing the Sporting Chance shirt, holding the Western Diamondback rattlesnake. Yeah. That is like even without our shirt, that would be a sick picture. But him standing there holding that, wearing the Sporting Chance shirt is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I didn't even message him yet. I was going to ask him if we could use that on the page.
Yeah, you need to shoot him a message, man. Bear was that was a huge guest. So cool. He's going to be such a huge star in the hunting media world. He already pretty much is. Yeah. But you would talk about just magnetic personality. Everybody who met him when he came to the field meet with us was just like having a love affair with him. They just thought he was the coolest dude ever.
Yeah, he's the freaking man, dude. He's like, he looks like the Arkansas version of Legolas from Lord of the Rings, bro. With the hair. He's mad light on his feet. You know what I'm saying? He's like the Arkansas Legolas, bro. Yeah, with the bow. He's like literally Legolas, bro.
That's spot on, dude. Him. You put some pointy ears on him, and he's an elf.
That's it. He's getting all the elf girls.
He's a supporter of the show. He wears the merch when he doesn't have to. Shoot, his employers would probably prefer him not to.
I would think that they, I think they would. Yeah. He's employed by MeatEater. He's a personality on MeatEater.
One.
I mean,
one of my absolute favorite people I've met through the podcast.
Yeah, and we got to hunt with him. We got to fly our birds with him. We got to interview him twice.
Him and his dad are far and away the coolest, most interesting people on MeatEater.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. 100%.
For those of you listening who don't know anything about it, I don't know how you could look it up, but there's a video of Bear Newcomb's dad, Clay Newcomb. He's wearing a wetsuit and he's swimming through like a channel in Alaska, stalking up on a bear, and he's got a compound bow on his back. So he just like swims through the river, on a boogie board, and he sneaks up behind the rocks and just like pops up like on the other side of this boulder and just shoots a bear with the bow, kills it.
Yeah.
Coolest way I've ever seen a bear get taken.
Yeah. And, you know, if you watch the episode, it's great because Steve, you know, he's been going up, you know, he has a cabin up there for the last, you know, 20 something years with his family. His brother has, you know, I think they own it together. And he's, you know, you drive around and you see the bear, you know, not drive. You go around on the boats and there's all these channels in Alaska there and you can see the bears feeding constantly, but you can't shoot them from the boat. So he always said, like, what if I put a wetsuit on and just...
Your feet have to be on land, 2 feet on land, right?
Oh, is that what it is? 2 feet on land?
I think so.
I've never heard that. I just know, like, you can't just, like, blast a bear or something from the boat. You have to be, like, yeah, I guess you have to be on the ground or something. So he had the idea, but I think it was pretty cool because Clay's the guy to do it, right? Clay's the bear guy. He's the bear magazine owner. He's the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast. You know, he owned that podcast first until Meat Eater, you know, took him on. So I mean, he's like the perfect guy for that job. So yeah, and it's like these are guys that like get millions and millions of interactions. They got shows on Netflix. Steve's he did a whole Steve from Meat Eater, the main personalities, did a whole series with History Channel, hunting history. Great. You know, I only got a couple episodes in and it's great. You know, this is like huge names in the hunting industry and they're just like, we have their numbers and we're texting them, you know, not Steve and Clay, but, you know, Bear, who's a member of the company. And it's just, you know, just the podcast is opening up doors for us. We got people inviting us to go pretty much anywhere we want to go. We have somebody that's already invited us to go. You know, standing invite to Poland, standing invite to Germany, standing invite to South Africa. I just don't know if they're going to pay for us to go there, but Mike, a friend of the show, besides Courtney, I think Mike is the most supportive of us. You know, your buddy Mike, he's the best. And he's got a contact in Alaska that does like, you know, moose and grizzly bear hunts. So he said maybe he could try to work something out for us to go up there, interview those guys. And the podcast has opened up doors. Not only that, but like tax write-offs and everything else. It's great.
Yeah, it's been a big financial boom to us.
Yeah, I guess. But we just reinvest everything back into the company. Anytime there's surplus in there, we just do something else with it.
I was being sarcastic. Very sarcastic.
Oh, yeah.
We spend like the shirts, for instance, going back to the merch, we print this on like super high quality Comfort Colors t-shirts. And the art is, we pay an artist hundreds of dollars to do the art. And then we have it screen printed by hand. It's not a digital thing. So we order 50 to 100, whatever the quantity is, and they put them on a screen. And like, you know, it's a physical manual process to create the shirts. So they're high quality and we pay a lot of money to have them made.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
nothing but the best for our listeners.
Absolutely. Really, it's an excuse for me to have the shirts. Really.
100%. Yeah.
That's
100%.
Almost all I wear is our merch now.
Dude, same. Every time I'm not at work. I mean, I was at work today. I was wearing the Sporting Chance hat all day at work. This whole week I was wearing the Sporting Chance hat.
Yeah, limited number of those available, by the way, guys.
Oh yeah, if you didn't get a hat by now, they're going to be gone, but I love them.
I'm not a hat guy, but it cracks me up. All the hat guys at Jersey were like picking them up, going like, dude, this is so nice.
Yeah.
And you were standing there smiling like a proud papa because it was like your pet project.
Yeah, I was like, we got to get a hat, man. I wear hats. First of all, I'm bald, so I wear hats all the time. And that was like a brand that I really liked, like the fit of it and the way it looks. And Yeah, it was good. Yeah, we're doing it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. The podcast is just a lot of fun. It's great.
So, Casey, what was your favorite? If you can mark it, what was your favorite episode that we did this year?
Oh, dude, that's hard, man. That's hard because I'll randomly just think of an episode and I'm like, oh, that was so fun. That was so great. I mean, you can't. I mean, Shawn's episode, you can't. Like, that was so funny and so fun. Just doing it, listening to him and all his jokes. And I didn't really know him that well at the time. And then it was just so fun. There was so much to cover. And if you guys are listening to this and you didn't listen to the Shawn episode, I don't know what you're doing, because that was a hilarious, insane, just never ending. The guy's story is just incredible. It's a lot of great stuff. I think.
He is legitimately one of the funniest dudes I've ever met in my life. The way he can work a joke in and call back to the same joke. Like, there were jokes about the monkeys, so many times. The way he worked those in, they were so funny. Yeah. One of the comments on the episode on YouTube, I think, was, "This is the wildest podcast I've ever heard."
Yeah, because we're not beholden to people telling us what we can or cannot say. We just say whatever we want, and we let our guests say whatever they want.
Well, it was specifically about the Shawn episode.
Yeah. He was going hard.
Speaking of Shawn, I'm going to have to say my favorite was the Shawn and Teddy one, because that was such an
them together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such an undertaking to get them together, which is actually this episode. But as far as like the actual recording and the conversation and the stories, it was such an undertaking to get those two people together at the same time. And it was so special to both of them that it just meant so much to me to see that happen.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah. That was I didn't really realize how, not serious, but how emotional it was going to be for both of them. And to be honest, Aaron basically set the whole thing up, but I was coaxing and prodding Shawn to come out, but after having them there together, it was just like, it was so sweet. It was so like heartfelt, and it was like, it all happened because of Aaron, essentially. And the podcast, secondly, that we set the whole thing up to have them meet. They haven't seen each other in a long time. It was this, this emotional thing, them getting back together. I watched Teddy's husband, Carl, who's usually a very serious, guy, and watching him joke around and crack jokes and laugh with Shawn. I was like, it was great. I mean, it was just, you could tell Shawn was just like a huge part of their life for a long time. And when he moved out west, it's, they missed him. So getting him back here was great. And, I'm glad Aaron and us, we were we could help facilitate that and get them back together.
And shout out to a constant Sporting Chance character, hated by most, Harrison Dalby.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Harrison, the brunt of our jokes.
Harrison has been a joke on just about every single episode, but he was one of our early guests. God, I don't know if I'd call him a supporter of the show, though. But
no, his girlfriend listens for him and then reports back to him the jokes that were made about him.
And we've made some crazy jokes about him.
Yeah, but hilarious stuff.
He's a good dude, and obviously we knew him before the podcast, but he may rub people the wrong way, but he's got a good heart, and he's I'm thankful that he's a good sport and lets us beat up on him just about every episode.
I don't know that he lets us. I think he gets mad every time. Which makes it more funny for some reason. It just makes it more funny.
Fair enough.
But he never loses it and starts yelling. But it's all in good fun, and it's all jokes, and Yeah, man, he's a good falconer.
Their jokes rooted in reality.
Any good joke is, as they say.
My favorite was when I said that Harrison rolls up to people's fields and sprays them down with weed killer.
And you've made jokes where I said to Courtney while Aaron's like finishing the joke, I'm telling Courtney in the mic, you have to cut that out because he's definitely not going to think that's funny. And then she cuts it out and you don't even hear half of the funny joke.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that one made it though. I was like, yeah, dude, I heard a rumor that Harrison will roll up to a field with his landscaping truck and just spray herbicide all over it.
Oh my god, it's so funny. No, there's Harrison's a good sport, good falconer. Did really well with his bird. He tried to like thank me
twice.
Twice he's been on the show.
He's the worst at anything sentimental or heartfelt.
Yeah, dude, like you're the the psychologist, with children and stuff, so I figure you could like break that down, but like his attempt to like thank me for like, helping him get a dachshund, setting him up with Aaron, getting him to fly a goshawk. He just like posted a blurry video of his bird chasing something. And he's like, that time with Casey when I realized that these are the kind of fields I need to find. I'm like, I guess he's thanking me or something.
I saw that post. I was like, what the hell is he trying to say here?
I couldn't understand what was going on, but I think he was like, I don't know what he was doing. I have no idea. He did thank me, because he used to text me about Lizzo and stuff. Not that I have any great insight. I really don't, to be honest. And I don't view myself in that way. So, but he was asking me advice, and I gave him just what works for me. And he did come to me after like last year after the first season, and he was like, "The stuff you told me, it worked. So great, right? It all works out."
Anyway, gotta go.
Anyway, he drives away in his diesel truck. Yeah.
Well, we have to mention the ridiculous loss and bad luck we had this year with our hunting companions. It started with me, and I'm telling you guys, for those of you who didn't get to see my bird, my goshawk, finished goshawk, chamber raised bird, she was just such an incredible bird. I was so proud of her. She had an incredible first season last year, and then she was doing fine this season. I was in no big hurry, and we caught a handful of things, and then her life was cut short. You guys heard me talk about it so many times on the podcast, so I don't even want to get into it. And then like a month later? No, not
3 weeks,
even.
Right?
Yeah, not even a month later. We're at the field meet, and my red-tailed hawk goes after a rabbit and smashes a fence and dies immediately. It was
in
just
front of me and everybody else.
Yeah, in front of Bear, Casey, friend of the show, Ben, the homie Mike, all types of people were there. Of course, friend of the show, Matt Starnes.
Yeah.
She just breaks her neck right there, and she was a special red tail. So it's like I had these two very special birds die within 3 weeks of each other. And then shortly thereafter, Casey's beloved and famous dachshund Ginger is killed by a bear. What, a month or two later? I mean, it couldn't be.
Literally, yeah, something like that. When was the field meet? I was actually trying to figure that out with my wife. When was the field meet? It was
like
January,
second week of January, probably.
Second week of January, and Ginger was killed like the second week of February.
I mean,
or even the first week.
It just crazy, insane luck. In all my years of falconry, I had one bird die in the field several years ago, and nothing since. And then in one season, I have two birds die in the field. And then Casey has a dog die in the field. But through the most ridiculous, I don't know anyone who's had a bear. Even the bear hunters don't have dogs killed by bears.
No, they may get scratched up and then die later from something else, like infection or bleeding out. But I mean, my dog was
I say that knowing, of course, that the plot hounds probably die every year due to injuries from bears, but not the bear hunters we know in recent memory, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
So yeah,
I just like.
rest
Yeah, you
in
can't.
peace.
I couldn't even believe. Yeah. Rest in peace to our birds,
Rest
man,
in
and our
peace to
dog.
the. Yeah, and the back to the merch. I guess I'm the merch guy. We just put out the shirt recently that honors Ginger, and up at the top, there's a silhouette of a red tail and a Harris hawk. Good God. A red tail and a goshawk flying above the sun. And that's our tribute to my birds that passed away.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a nice ad that you threw them in there because they deserve to be in there.
So we can't thank people. We can't be done thanking people without a shout out to Philippe Wills, our artist.
Yeah. Yeah. He's,
our numinous nature. We're going to get him on the podcast. He's interested in coming on. He's a super interesting dude. He has his own podcast called Our Numinous Nature. Check him out on Instagram. He's like become the falconry artist after he started doing art for us.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's funny. This is a quick story about him is when Ginger passed away, like a week went by or something like that. I've been having people, Ginger gets a lot of views and people like Ginger. So I was like, oh, I should make a shirt. Like, and I was talking to Aaron about it. So then after she died, it was like a week went by or two. And I'm like, well, now I guess is the best time to make something, something a tribute to her or something. And I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, man, do you think about, what do you think about maybe doing something for the dog? We could make something, with her, like fighting a bear or anything, He was like, nah, man, I'm real busy these days. I'll let you know, and I'm like, all right, whatever. Let me know. And, but unbeknownst to me, Aaron was already talking to him in the background, setting the whole thing up, picking the way it was going to look. And so like, it was all like kind of like a secret and a surprise that was going to happen. And it came out better than I could have, imagined. It was beautiful. It was just perfect, and thank you, Aaron, for that. Cause that was, I had nothing really to do with it until it was kind of like pretty much done. Aaron was sending me stuff and it was really special, meant a lot. And, I'm really happy that shirt's in. I'm still getting stuff in the mail, man. I got pillows that have Ginger's face on. I got pictures, prints. Somebody said, I don't know if it was Mike. Aaron, did you see my text last night? I don't know if it was Mike that sent that, but it's like this thing where you fill it in yourself and you color it in and then it becomes the picture of your dog.
I didn't see that. No, maybe it didn't come through.
Okay, I don't know because Mike said he said look out for a package. So I don't know if it was from Mike because Mike's super
sure
thoughtful.
It was. Yeah, I'm sure it was from Mike.
Yeah, just like a huge outpouring for her, and it means a lot. And she was a good dog, and it's part of the sport. Dude, Aaron, I didn't tell you when I went to PA with Seth and those guys, my white bird got electrocuted 4 times.
Well, electrocuted means died, so shocked.
She got shocked. All right, I was trying to be, exaggerate. Yeah, she landed. So like the high power lines, like the power line cuts with those big lines.
Yeah, the high tension lines.
Yeah, and there's those huge insulators with the big round things that go down to the wire that hold it.
That's wild.
So she landed. She tried to land on one of those, got zapped. Then she landed on a wire, got zapped. Then she missed a slip, went up, tried to land on the same wire, got zapped again.
So was it a misty day or something?
No. It was a beautiful, warm day, sunny.
So you heard the crackle and she like jumped off?
Oh, yeah. No, she chittered. She chittered on the last one. Yeah, she chittered on the first one, and then she chittered on the last one. Yeah. The first one was rough. People were like, oh, no, and she was like chittering. And
oof, that's rough.
Yeah, still caught a rabbit, though, but it was crazy.
My sponsor, he had a bird land on one, and it popped. And the bird, he said it spiraled down like a football falling, and he ran up and grabbed him, and he was smoking, and he said that he stood up and survived.
Yeah, Olivia Steele, your man. She sent me a video of her red tail landing on a wire, and her bird getting shocked, and it like looked like it was like it gets shocked and like comes off the wire, looks like it's dead, and then it's alive again. And then kind of like flew away, and And you think that those power lines are safe, and they stay on a misty day. And I've never heard of a bird dying from landing on one of those power lines, but I have heard of birds getting like shocked from those power lines.
I've had birds on misty days land on them, and you hear like a crackle, and the bird like flies off of it real quick.
Yeah, because the circuit is getting created through the water vapor in the air. Yeah, so and like tail mount versus leg mount. I think if the wire touches on the tail mount, the leg mount, excuse me, if the leg mount wire of the transmitter touches that line, I think it's enough to create a minor circuit that would then slightly shock the bird or could pop the transmitter. Because the bird has to get grounded. So the only way for the bird to actually get fried from that is if its wings were long enough to touch from one high power line to the other high power line. Then the current would go straight through them and kill them. So as long as they can't, that's why I remember in Swedesboro when everyone was getting nervous about my bird landing on that one thing. Then I was like, there's no way for her to get electrocuted there unless she, spread her wings out and touched each at the exact same time. Because then it would run through her and could potentially kill her.
Oof. It's still,
it's just so scary.
It's still so, like, I'm still so raw from losing my birds this season to freak accidents that seeing any bird, come close to that just gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts, man. And the season's not done for me either. I'm still going, and I keep thinking to myself, like, imagine something happens to my bird now. Like, should I just stop?
Yeah, what's your goal? Like, why are you still going?
Because I got 81 kills. I wanted to get 85.
It's so warm down here. The rabbits have got to be. I bet there's baby rabbits right now down here.
I got baby rabbits outside of my hutch. My rabbits are breeding.
All right, guys. Well, listen, there's a lot of people out there we would like to thank. Thankful to everyone that listens to the podcast. We're thankful to everyone that buys the merch. Thank you, everybody who's come on. We're just super grateful to everyone out there.
Yeah, same here. Just the podcast doesn't exist without the listeners, and the podcast most definitely doesn't exist without guests willing to come on. And, we got a lot of people that want to come on the show, but if you think, and this is the thing, right, Aaron, and the people that are most apt to come on the show are maybe not the most interesting people to come on the show. And the people that you want to come on the show are very resistant to coming on the show. That's just the way any podcast works. So, but if you feel that you have something interesting to say, life that you've led, hunting stories, stuff like that, and you think you'd like to come on the show, reach out to me or Aaron on social media, and we'll talk about it. Because getting guests and having guests is part of the whole thing. Or listen, even better, if you're a listener and an old school falconer or somebody that you respect highly, and you want them to come on the show, you want to hear from them, get them in contact with us or set it up, and we'll get them on and we'll get their story told so that people can hear. And we just appreciate everybody that listens and follows along, and we really appreciate the support.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, enjoy this very, very special episode. I'm very proud of it. And we will see you soon.
Got carried away and sent you a few texts, and I said, no, his dog is dead. His dog is dead. I know my dead dogs.
You could have. You can send me anything.
Right.
Yeah, it's just, I got a lot of outpouring from people.
Crying like an old woman,
Yeah. And then I made the video that you saw, and I Harrison said that you wanted to see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have no problem seeing it.
So that's literally why, like, I didn't post it because I didn't want Teddy to see it.
Oh, no.
That's literally what it was. But there was a lot of speculation. Like,
well, thank you for thinking of that, but
yeah, but there was a lot of speculation because I made an initial clip of the bear walking away and said it was a bad day.
10 million Monday morning quarterbacks.
Yeah, and then there was a lot of like, she was harassing it. Dachshunds love to chase, and then we said we did the whole thing, and then I just put a clip out just explaining like that she wasn't like she was not harassing the bear. The only bark that she made was a bark and a half. Dead, and then Franny made 2 barks, and then Franny was smart enough to shut her mouth. If you hear the video,
I'm going to take a guess. You walked up on top of the hill, the pile.
Mm-hmm.
got the bear's attention, like
While
what's
it was
going
jumping
on,
its head.
and then basically the dog walked right into it. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The bear was definitely agitated, and then where I was standing was like right over the den. And then you were telling me stories, Teddy, that of people that their leg went through, and that could have easily
Stepped
happened.
over a log and stepped on a bear. Not me, but another guy I know. The bear was sleeping beside the log. Guy steps over the log, stamps right on the back of the bear.
Did he get bit?
No, I think they both ran separate.
Yeah. He told us about the guy who was killed in New Jersey, college student.
When that kid got killed, I couldn't believe that I wasn't killed, because I went after these things hard and harassed the living shit out of them. Yeah. I would climb the tree right up to them and like literally be standing on the bough right across from them, tapping them with a stick to get them to come down to my dogs.
What about that one on the cabin you said went up over the roof of the cabin? Like a squirrel?
Yeah. That was my first thing with bears. We were camping in the Poconos at Marty Lieberman's cabin. It was just me and another guy. And it was 100 degrees. I mean, brutal. And I had made enough chili to feed half the New Jersey banquet last night, just for me and him. And so we had tons of it, and there's no electric at the cabin. He had it shut off, so there's no refrigeration. And I had it in a big pot. We had built a fire outside, and I said, let's sleep outside on the ground. And I had a bunch of den terriers and some lurchers, and he had a big pet Rhodesian Ridgeback. Barney was his name, and that dog was it was a pet, and he just, he wasn't a whatchamacallit dog, and he's not used to being outside. So we lay out our mats with our heads towards the fire, and we're laying on the ground, and it's hot, and decide to go to sleep. And he goes, I'm going to go get my dog out. And I'm like, oh God.
Why? Just to have
it was inside the cabin.
Oh, okay.
And so the dog comes out, and it's pacing all around. And I'm like, Frank, we're never going to get to bed, because it's just walking around. So he goes and gets this sheepskin mat that the dog was laying on inside, and lays it down like right next to us, or right in between us. And the dog sees that mat and goes right down, and we're out. We had been hunting all day, digging woodchucks and, doing lurcher stuff and doing long range shooting with his gun.
Oh, cool.
And the dog got up. I wake up, and the fire's just coals, and there's a moon had come up, and I could see across the woods, and we're in the front of this cabin, and the dog stands up and is growling and just walks away, turns around the cabin, disappears. So I'm kind of like up on my elbows like this, and all of a sudden the dog comes running for its life, running right back towards me and Frank, runs right in between us, and right on its ass is this sow, and runs right up and literally steps on my sleeping bag.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, Frank, bears. And then I look, and there's bears everywhere. I see bears everywhere. Well, they looked like full-size bears, but she had 3 cubs, but they looked, and at night they looked huge.
Yeah.
And I go, Frank, bears. Frank is kind of rolling up, waking up. I go, let the dogs out. And the sow just turns around, not fast, and just looks over his shoulder at me and just walks off like this. He runs inside the house, opens the door, and out pours 10 terriers and lurchers, and there's bears and dogs running everywhere, all around the cabin, under the cabin, and everything. Finally, everybody goes up and ends up on these 2 trees next to the cabin. And one tree, shine the flashlight, it's 3 cubs, no bigger than, 2 of them were no bigger than that donut box, and then maybe another bigger one, and then the sow, which was 100 pounds, 120 pounds soaking wet. And so we get all the dogs inside, and we go inside the kitchen, and open the kitchen window and, the tree, you could put your hand out the kitchen window and touch the tree. So the bear, Sal shimmies down and walks off. And I hadn't had many interactions with bears at that point, and she just walks off, makes a couple noises and leaves, but like dead silent, like a ninja, walks off. So about 2 minutes later, she comes back and makes a sound, and the cubs start shimmying down the tree. So I reach in with a pan and slap the side of the tree, and the cubs go back up. And so she comes over to the tree where the cubs are, and she's like from here to the door from the tree and goes like this and jumps 6 feet up the tree, and you hear her touch the tree and then climbs the tree. Like you barely, if you weren't standing next to the cabin, there's no wind, climbs right up the tree, barely hear. So I go, Frank, we got to get some pictures. So I get a ladder and climb up on the roof. Now I'm from here to here from her, and I'm like standing like standing here like this, taking pictures. Oh, I misspoke. She was up the tree already.
Okay.
She hadn't jumped up it.
Okay.
And I climbed up the tree, up the cabin, and took some pictures of her. And, I'm standing from me to you, 5 feet away, taking pictures, and I get down, off, go back inside. She shimmies down, disappears, comes back. 10 minutes later, makes the noises, like calling them down. I slap the tree. She comes over and just jumps 6 feet. I'm like, she could have stepped off of that, like her coming off of that tree and tackling me on the roof would have been like nothing. You and I stepping off a curb, Yeah. It was really something. And then she shimmied, we let her come down, and she made some noises. They all came down, just disappeared into the night. Yeah.
Jeez.
When you see them go up and down trees, it's amazing that just the bulk, how easily they just clamber up and down, no problem.
Like a squirrel.
Yeah, I saw there's a couple of videos of like, I guess when like big boars come in and the cubs go and the sow will go too, and you could see that just the sow's like running up the tree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not,
like almost as fast as they can run on the ground.
Not like it's an effort.
No, not like they're just like effortlessly running up the tree. It's like there's nothing you could do. Like if that bear wants you.
Weren't we talking about bears don't have collarbones? So they could fit.
They can squeeze in the holes.
Yeah.
They don't have anything.
So they're almost built to go lateral like that.
A groundhog has cartilage for a collarbone, which is why they can squeeze tighter than we can.
When you see how fat some of those things are, that a little dachshund has trouble getting into the same hole.
Right.
The dachshund is smaller, right? When you say so?
Yeah, but it isn't flexible like.
Yeah.
There was groundhog holes yesterday that we could reach our arm into and feel, around and little Franny there's just a little pinch point that they have a lot of trouble squeezing through.
I think part of that was just mental with her. I think, but I don't know. She wasn't super excited about that hole, but that hole she should have been able to fit into. You see that, Teddy, sometimes? Yeah. Probably not with your dogs, but like mine sometimes, like they get like, they'll sit in front of it and dig and like get themselves excited to go in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It depends.
I think the scent has to do, because some holes, like she gets a hot scent, she just goes right in. And other holes, she's like, she'll leave and come back and she's digging. And then I'm just like coaxing her. And then she eventually goes in. It's like almost like it's.
Yeah. Well, if she doesn't want to go in, I never say, go ahead and go in.
Right.
Because they'll smell it and say, well, maybe, maybe not, but I don't think so. And a lot of times they'll track away. Yeah. And you're thinking, where is it going? And for some reason, they want to check that back trail.
Right. Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
Yes, exactly. I got to just leave them alone. Keep my mouth shut.
No. Do you see that thing that Harrison posted that he found on the Born to Track blog?
I may have saw it.
It's from, I think, year 2000. John and A's wife had Born to Track a blog on their wire hair dachshunds.
John and A was who I was speaking of this morning that bred the standards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he brought blood tracking to America, but she apparently put a picture of my 6-pound dachshund and one of the lurchers I had and treat a bear. And that's what made me think. I remember that bear. It was a big bear. And, there's a lurcher and a dachshund. The dachshund's jumping around like crazy and the lurcher's just... But there's 3 pictures of the bear. And you can see he's just attached to the side of the tree. And I remember him being a big bear. And he finally stopped. And there was a limb as big around as this mic, and he kind of straddled it and sat there like, because we very seldom went in the woods. We didn't tree a bear.
Right. That was part of the reason why you moved.
Yes.
Yeah, because it just started getting.
That reminds me of the bear that you snuck up on me like an Indian at Winnebago, and I had this one cur dog, and I had this lurcher with me named Grill. And the cur dog was a Kemmerbred dog out of Daryl Fry's stuff. And this dog had hot trailed and disappeared. And way off in the distance, I heard him open, which means that he was looking at the bear. And and he's running right at me. And so I reached down and grabbed the lurcher by the collar and hold on like this. And lumbering towards me is probably one of the biggest bears I ever treated. Easily. I mean, I let it go, but it was probably, anywhere 400 to 500 pounds. And those bears, if anybody, especially in New Jersey, sees a bear that size, they don't have many enemies. They don't worry about other bears or anything. And so when the bear started crossing my path like so many feet in front of me, I let the lurcher go. And the lurcher ran up and the cur caught up, and the bear ran to a tree and put his feet up on the tree like this and turned and was looking at the dogs. And then I walked up 10 feet away, and the bear looked at me and then sat down on the ground and turned towards me. And I reached down, pick up a stick, and I hit the side of the tree that I was standing next to. And I said, "Get up that tree, get up that tree." And that bear reluctantly, with the cur and the whatchamacallit, oh no, he turned around and grabbed my cur dog and reached down like this. He was sitting on his haunches and grabbed it like a toy and brought it in and to his stomach, and then bent over, and the 65-pound dog disappeared.
Oh my God.
And I went like this. First time I ever saw that happen. I was brand new.
Yeah.
And that lurcher grabbed that bear by the side of the head, and the cur dog came squirting out, and he had a perfect, it looked like a cartoon claw mark down the side of his rib cage where the bear had just raked him open. That's when I hit the tree, got him up a tree, and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I hear a noise behind me, and I look over it, and it's Keeper, her dog. And then Teddy's standing there.
Snuck up on you.
Yeah. Yeah, like an Indian.
Yeah. Did you get to see any? How long were you standing there?
I don't remember.
But I got a great picture somewhere of Teddy standing underneath the tree. The bear's 8 feet in the air, big bear, standing on a limb about this big, just sitting there straddling the thing, looking down at Teddy like this.
We got to see that picture. It's probably a great picture.
I'd love to find that.
The one that was on the refrigerator?
Yeah. Look at that.
She had cubs in 2 different trees.
How'd you get that printed? That's nice. See this?
It's one of those panorama cameras.
Yeah.
Years ago. But there's actually 5 dachshund.
Under there that you can't really see? Okay.
Yeah, you can't. You might see one and Celtic dog. But they wouldn't. I can call the lurcher off. 5 dachshunds you aren't going to call off.
No.
So I rounded up.
Oh, that was the story you told us where she kept going back to the tree, and you're like, all right, well.
Well, the bear came down, and the bear ran over the mountain, and Kicker ran over the mountain with her. I said, okay.
You want to listen? Yeah.
Yeah. And I could hear her all around the mountain. Ark, 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 ark.
Stressful.
It is stressful.
I'd be more worried about her doing that, more worried about the coyotes up there at that time.
Yes. That's another reason we left is the coyotes would come in all the time.
They would come in, to the dogs barking?
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be a bigger danger than bears.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And more likely in a suburban area, like a farm that backs up to a woodlot. Gavia, the one that got carried away a couple times. We were in Route 17, those industrial parks, and that coyote came out of nowhere and grabbed Gavia and ran away with her.
I always imagine that they're waiting on the periphery for their opportunity when we're out. We're probably watched by coyotes all the time with our dachshunds.
I like to think that when you start making noise, they just leave. Or am I just...
I think they move.
They get curious, and the closer you are to highways, cars, and everything, the minute you teach a coyote that a truck is associated with, going to get shot at, going to get dogged, especially out west when they see, I'm working on a pair of coyotes now that I can't catch because they see me at a half mile off and they know what's coming and they disappear before I can even get specials on them.
Yeah.
But, like we were talking to Phil, last night and today, we were talking about those coyotes and, Teddy had gone off to go do something. We were standing by the tailgate and out came this coyote right around her. I mean, like a cat sneaking right, circling by, and I saw her, and that's when I just dumped the lurchers.
And Phil said you got, because that was a good story. Phil said you almost caught that coyote with the
we
lurchers.
had some hitters in there. We had my dog and we had Kahuna and, yeah.
It's hard for them to catch it like in a wooded environment though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same with a fox. They jink and go through the bushes and stuff. They're quick. Quick.
Yeah.
So the coyote, okay. Like a coyote, like nothing's trying to really kill them where we live, like we're in Jersey. But they naturally just want to run anyway, just because of the fact that they know something's chasing them.
Oh, they're very wary. They're very aware of their environment, and they are afraid of people.
To a degree, I guess.
To a degree.
Right.
Especially like Shawn says, you shoot at them a couple of times.
Shoot at them once, it's over.
But even bears in North Jersey, they're not afraid of people per se.
I could literally take you to a spot 5 miles from where Ginger got killed. We go over the hill to route, over there on the other side. The difference in the bear's attitude compared like I lived in Orange County in Westtown.
Yeah.
And the bears there feared you
because
we
hunt them,
killed them, hunted them.
Yeah.
You go over to Jersey, they're like this. Look at the coyotes in California. They'll come right up.
There's videos all over the place.
Right up a street and
down the road.
Hipster people just walking and the coyotes following them.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do I do right now? And they have a little dog on a leash. I'm like, pick that dog up and...
Yeah.
When I was out in Arizona, you'd see them all over the place, just walking around broad daylight. In suburban neighborhoods. And
so really the only thing to mitigate it is to have a lurcher in the field with your dachshunds and hope that they see or hear something before you do and can get over there.
The one I lost, Kicker, I had the lurcher and other dachshunds and
out of position at that exact moment.
Yeah, coincidentally, it was like a peninsula of rock and land, and Kicker went up here, treat a squirrel, and Celtic and the other dachshunds were down here.
And she's barking at the squirrel.
And she barking at the squirrel.
The dogs are on the other side.
And the coyote came, grabbed her, and I heard her bark and then scream. And by the time I got the lurcher around, the coyote was trotting off with her, dropped her, and the lurcher chased him over the mountain, but it didn't save.
It didn't, yeah.
A woman in, maybe I told you, in South Carolina with standard dachshunds. She poo-pooed coyotes for a while because she has very tough, smooth dachshunds, good killers. And she was out hunting them one time, and coyotes came in and tore up one of her dachshunds. So she bought 2 Pharaoh hounds, which are sight hounds that chase things.
Egyptian, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And they took off on another occasion. The dachshunds are chasing a coyote, and the 2 Pharaoh hounds went out with it, and she thought, oh, well, that's taken care of. Well, they all came back with their tails between their legs.
Yeah.
And the coyote was fine. They're very vicious fighters.
Yeah.
They might be 35 pounds, but they got a head 35. The size of a lurcher.
I talked to a guy, sorry, Shawn, before I forget about it, a friend of mine in Kansas, he wasn't a dog guy. He was just a falconer. he knew guys who could catch a live coyote for him. He had some guys actually from Maryland. I don't know who they are. He couldn't remember who they were. That came in to hunt with him. They had Yacht Terriers and they had Harris Hawks, and they wanted to get with him because he had eagles, and they wanted to see that. And they asked him if he could get him a coyote because they wanted to put the Yacht Terriers on a coyote.
Probably a bad idea, right?
And he said, "Sure, I can get you a coyote if you want to do it." And he said that they put it on the coyote in a pen, and the Yacht Terriers ran up and engaged the coyote. And he said, like, the way he described it, he was a funny guy. He said the coyote got in the corner and leaned its head back.
100%.
And he said it opened up its mouth, and he said its mouth looked like like a monster out of a movie, like it folded in half. He said it just turned down and grabbed one of the Yacht Terriers and shook it and threw it aside, grabbed the other one. And once the guys saw the first one get grabbed, they're like, no, abort mission. No. And the falconer was lucky for them as a surgeon.
Oh.
So he pieced those Yacht Terriers back together.
I believe it 100%. There are probably, standards. I have one at the house that, I would put on any coyote, but he's 50 pounds. He's not your typical size. In fact, he came from Chad
I was
Reynolds.
going to say, Chad has big, he's known for dealing with bigger Yacht Terriers.
Right.
Because the one at the meet, we saw the one at the meet, which had a smoother coat. That was like a small dog.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
Did you see it?
The one the girl had?
Yeah.
No, I looked at those. In fact, I commented to Teddy that they were very nice for whole work, like the way they were built and everything.
Right,
but
yeah.
they're not gonna. I got a good story. The first time that I ever went coyote hunting with staghounds was with Teddy, and it was in Eric, Oklahoma. So it first started off, I pride myself on being on time and being organized and everything like that. And somehow...
Why are you laughing, Teddy?
The sun's in my eyes.
Somehow I messed up the time or whatever, and I was in Montclair, New Jersey, waiting to get to the airport with my dog, and without a dog, and I turned around and had to race to the airport and just made the plane, which stressed me out and stressed Teddy out. Oh, and Steve Cooper was with us too.
Yeah, I was saying Steve Cooper set up this hunt.
Yeah, from Long Island. And so we get out there.
Do you remember looking for me at the airport and you couldn't find me? He says, "You're too small. I couldn't see you."
Yeah, and so we get to the airport, get on the plane, and we're flying out there, and we land and we rent a car, and it's about we land in Oklahoma City, and it's about an 80-mile drive. And Steve's like, "You drive," and Teddy's like, "You drive," to me. And so I'm out there, first time in Oklahoma, first time out in the West, and I'm doing 80, 90 miles an hour. All the way out there, we get to the place. We're going to stay in a hotel. Me and Steve are splitting a room. Teddy has her own room. We go to this guy. The reason we got this hunt was this guy was Steve. Steve raced greyhounds, and this guy was a greyhound farmer.
Were you into greyhounds at that time?
No, just after that.
Just after.
Yeah. So real nice guy. I forget his name, but anyway, he was in Eric, Oklahoma, and his diet consisted of Dr. Pepper and filterless cigarettes, and he barely ate at night.
So he's a health nut?
Yeah, he was a health nut. Oh, there's another great story that's attached to this story too. So you guys know, Teddy knows, but you guys don't know Steve Cooper. Steve Cooper was your quintessential New York, Long Islander. He had the disease, the dog disease, and he was a greyhound racer, a whippet racer, and he loved to course rabbits with his snap dogs, his whippet crosses and stuff like that. But he was like a very fast talker, always very animated. He was a horrible, like yesterday, he would have walked that field 7 times. He would have made 7 loops around that thing. By the time you guys made it to the first mound. Okay. He walked too fast and the rabbits would sit right down and he'd walk right over rabbits. And Teddy and I would be 100 yards behind him, walking very slow. And a rabbit would get up in front of us. And
Seth gave me that pro tip.
Yeah.
That moving slower through the field makes them more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And if you move fast, they know. Yeah, but I never really thought about it like that before. I just think I'm covering ground. If I get near them, they're going to run.
No.
They know
your typical Yankee.
I'm too animated. When you go slow, they feel like they're being watched.
Stop.
And they're like, well, I got to get out of here. And then they go.
They say like when you're gun hunting them, even without dogs, if you walk around and stop,
And just look, they'll
get nervous and run.
Yeah.
That's clear. I didn't know. It's a good program.
And a lot of guys out west that hunt coyotes literally pull into a field just like these guys did. And they kept a brick of 22s, 1,000. They kept a bucket of 22 shells in their truck, 1,000 bullets. And they would have these 22 automatics. They pull into a field and go, and the coyotes would stand right up and they go after.
Oh, that guy I rode with, this guy, Eric.
Yeah.
We'd come to a little copse of trees, probably a pond in it.
Yeah.
I had no idea where we were. He rolls his window down. He takes out a gun, a pistol, and he just shoots all through that. I said, how do you know there's not a kid fishing in there? No one's in there. Right? Bang, bang, bang. Trying to flush a coyote. So, okay, that's how they do it out
so
here.
They flush it. So because you'll pull in and then the dogs don't see him and there's no movement. So
there's no.
to get him to move.
You need to flush them, right? And
I got to jump back a little bit. So we get to this guy's place and he's raising 500 greyhounds at one time. There's females. I mean, he's got a crew of 5 people working full time. He's got a full training track. I mean, his wife took care of all the bitches with puppies and so now he takes us over to his other steel building. He has this little steel outbuilding, maybe 60 by 80, and his hunting trucks in there. 2 of them with the dump boxes. And then he's got 7 runs, 300 feet long. And every run has one impressive stag hound nicer than the other. And my thing into sight hounds at this time is just lurchers. So our big dog to us was 65, 70 pounds. These dogs, the average dog there was like 80 pounds, a big head on it. So he had this big dog named Bear, and he goes, we're going to take Bear today and everything like this. And this is getting back to the 35-pound coyote story. Anyway, I don't know how the procession went, but we get into this coyote, we dump into this pasture. In Oklahoma, everything was cut up by fences. So the dogs had to fence, had to learn.
They had to learn fences. Yeah.
So anyway, he dumps on this coyote, and he's got dogs that are faster than this 100-pound dog named Bear. And they run this coyote into the corner of a fence, and the coyote's going to go through the fence, but he knows that he's not going to make it. And he goes like this, turns like this. And you saw 3 80-pound dogs slam the brakes on. You know what I mean? Right. They weren't running into him, and they were all looking at each other
first. Where's Bear?
Looking at each other for a second, and then the bear dog kind of like waded through and just grabbed the coyote. But that right there was my first experience that. And it was funny. All his dogs were one scab from the nose all the way to the ears, and it was because we were there in March. We were almost out of hunting at that time.
Right.
And a reference point is, we got fogged out a couple times. Side story, right? It was that we couldn't hunt a couple days, which cut our trip down. Side story. So we got this guy from Steve Cooper from Long Island with us. And he liked to drink. Teddy and I don't drink. So all day he's like, and we were in a dry county. So we had to go to Texas over the state line to go get some alcohol. So we go get some alcohol, and the guy, the farmer, the greyhound farmer is like, Steve, you can't drink. You can't bring that in a restaurant and drink it. You can't do this. He goes, I got a better idea. We're going to go to the VFW. We can drink there. So we're sitting there. Steve Cooper's to my right. Teddy's directly across from me. And we got all the guys we were hunting with. You know, there's must be 15, 20 guys there.
There's a bunch of rigs out there that day.
Yeah. But this is like the next night. We got fogged out. And so all the guys came, you know, and they're showing us a good time. We're sitting at this VFW eating big Oklahoma steaks and everything. So they bring out a plate of this stuff. And I don't know. I have no idea what this is, right? But I know I'm starving. So I'm sitting across from Teddy, Steve Cooper sitting to the right. And he goes, okay, we're going to bring out some oysters, mountain oysters. And he brings out this plate of mountain oysters, calf fries or something. And Steve Cooper's like, blah, 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 just talking a mile a minute. Drinking, talking about dogs, talking about breedings, you know, typical dog stuff guy. And I go to reach for one, and I get this immense pain in my shin. And I look over at Teddy, and she kicked me. She's like, no, don't. She's giving me the sign, don't eat that. So Steve's about 10 deep into this, okay? Just shoveling them, you know, because we haven't eaten all day. And to know this guy, listen, to me, eating calf fries today, yeah, that's Steve right there.
I heard they taste good, though.
Yeah. To eating,
That's him?
yeah, eating calf fries today.
That's about right.
Yeah. Eating calf fries today to me would be no big deal. I mean, of course I would eat them, but I don't, for some reason back then, I don't know why we shouldn't have ate them, but we're sitting there and, Steve goes, these are fantastic. Well, you know, what kind of oysters are these? And every guy there got this grin on his face because they knew we're going to take this, you know, we were city people to them, you know, even though that, you know, at that time, Teddy probably had more bodies on her than all them combined. You know what I mean? And they all got this grin on their faces. They really wanted to put it to this guy, Steve. And they go, those are calf fries. He goes, calf fries? What are calf fries? Mountain oysters. He goes, yeah, I know. What are mountain oysters? He goes, when we denut a cow and make it a steer, those are the nuts. And he was literally had one in his hand and half of one in his mouth. And he almost like he just threw everything down, spit it out on the thing.
Really?
Yeah, we were in tears laughing.
Were they serve them like hard-boiled eggs, basically? Or?
No, they were like deep fried, like with a bread, right?
Yeah, some coating.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I heard it raises your testosterone levels.
Ooh.
Pro tip for everybody with low T out there.
That's awesome. So you guys killed some crowds. Another question that I had, because when I'm just tying it in, because in West Virginia, it was really cool because you mentioned that there's multiple guys there. When somebody cuts a track, we don't race to where they cut the track. We watch the GPS and then we try to move into position to then dump our box onto and keep it moving. Is that what goes on out west too? Or the runs don't last that long.
No, they don't last that long. We were running sight hounds, and the typical chases were 500 yards, 600 yards.
Okay, so it's not like just running, and then this guy's driving down, he'll dump his box, and they keep running.
These guys, I'm still trying to figure out how they made a living. I mean, I know how our guy did. He was greyhound. I mean, why he was coyote hunting. He was making money. And it's something I tried to do, but then greyhound racing, went on the outs and you couldn't do it anymore. But they all ran a radio at the time, Marine band or, whatever. And it was a private band that they had their own frequency, and they turned around and they would meet at a junction. Hey, meet at over at so's place. And these 4 rigs would pull up and literally dump all their dogs on the ground. And they'd all stand around drinking coffee and talking. Hey, let's go over here today. Let's do this. And they would, turn around and let their dogs empty out. And then literally every guy would sit there and make a certain noise or a call. And these dogs would come running back and load right into the boxes. That's how much they hunted almost every day, though, that crew out there. Here's another side story. So we got done. We had to get back to the airport. Get on a plane. the next day, I forget his name, McVeigh blew up the federal building.
Timothy McVeigh.
Yeah, blew up the
Oklahoma.
federal
Oh,
building
wow.
in Oklahoma City when we were there.
I thought it was you.
No.
That's all, man. Me and Aaron were like, I know our wheels are turning. We got to get out there. I want to see that in person. So I think we asked you this question already, but that was explaining that 3 80-pound dogs were hesitant to engage.
That's where I learned
That it's not a joke. It's
no, but also being Irish, it takes me 4 or 5 times to learn something.
right.
So years later, I still hadn't, really come to my senses. And Teddy, you probably remember this dog. I had this red fell terrier that was harder. I mean, harder than a Mexican concrete worker. Okay,
They are pretty tough guys.
They're
I
tough,
can
yeah.
assure you.
Yeah.
I work with them all the time.
This dog was tough and stupid. So I landed.
What was his name? The dog's name?
I forget.
Wasn't Yoda? Wasn't
No. That was the red Patterdale.
Yeah,
but I had
okay.
this red, beautiful felt, real felt.
What's the difference between Patterdale and Fell?
I misspoke. It was a red Lakeland.
Yeah.
I had a red Lakeland.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's
either of
a
those.
Lakeland Terrier, very much like the Patterdale, but this had a wire coat on it, and it was bred by a guy named Jeff that imported him down in Maryland. That was with Mason's buddy.
Oh, yes.
Who used to breed the Patterdales.
David Mason.
Yeah, it was Mason's buddy Jeff. But I had this dog, and this dog was hard. I mean, hard. Like if you had an animal in an undiggable spot and you couldn't get a lurcher in there, or you couldn't get a pistol up in there, you'd put this dog in, and he'd either kill it or make it want to come out. And but then again, you'd have to put him away for a month, and let him heal up. So
Jeez, yeah.
when I moved out west, I turned around, and within the first week, I had this dog with me in the front seat of a truck. I was hunting with a friend, and we ran one right into a culvert. And I turned around and I said, I got something for him. And I pulled the red Lakeland out and put him in. And literally, I never heard that dog bark. And I went in there, and literally the ground was an earthquake. The ground was shaking. And I shine a light in there, and this coyote is shaking the living daylights out of this Lakeland 20 feet up the tube. And I don't know how he got loose, but he got loose, and he turned around and quit. And he came out of the culvert and kind of fell over. So I put him back in a crate, and he was, he wasn't ripped open or anything, but this coyote had given him, bit him across the skull, and probably cracked his skull. And I got him home and vetted him up, and he literally slept in my kitchen, which to bring this dog in the kitchen would be like bringing a Wolverine in the kitchen. And he literally laid on a dog bed in the kitchen for 3 days before not eating, not drinking, before he stood up and wanted to go outside. And
So he recovered from that.
he recovered.
So he
Yeah.
was a tough dog.
Yeah. Super tough.
What was the red Patterdale that
Yoda.
He was in that drainage pipe in Fairfield at the sand quarry, and he killed the groundhog way back where the dirt was compacted, and he wouldn't come out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a little Ford Escort, so I went all through it and got all the debris from my children's hamburger wrappers, and we started a fire and smoked him out.
Yeah.
Really? That's hilarious.
Remember he was, and the other end of the pipe was where we couldn't get to it, to dig to it.
Yeah, it was buried. It was
Buried
buried in a thing. Yeah.
So that's the thing about Patterdales is you can get them small enough where they'll get in holes nice, but they latch on and stuff, and they don't want to come out.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Well, see, where they're from in the United Kingdom, they work them in the rocks. So you kill the fox or you bolt the fox, but you're not digging the dog. So they needed that.
Yeah.
Right.
The things that changed majorly, and this is just my opinion, and being into, terriers for so many years, was they had a Pacific quarry over in the UK and the British Isles, which were fox. And the Patterdales and the Fells and all the hard dogs were made to be put in undiggable places you can't dig. And it was 100% livestock control, because the foxes over there are bigger than the foxes we have here. And they could get away with a bigger dog, and these foxes could prey on lambs and sheep and everything else. So they had to be taken care of. So a lot of the, foot packs and mounted packs that hunted these areas that had spots that were undiggable used these dogs. Now you fast forward over here to America, the shock rate of a raccoon compared to a fox isn't even on the same page. I mean, you could shoot reach in a hole and shoot a raccoon 10 times with a 22 and it'd still be alive, beating up your dog. Or if you did, you smack a fox over the skull with a spade, he's dead or injured. So they had to make smaller dogs for tougher quarry over here. But then what happened is the Americans figured it out that it's just easier to get on the internet and talk about it. Okay. And hunt stuff above ground than it is to dig holes,
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They don't have the genetics to be small. The Patterdales, the Lakens, they either had to mix something in with them or try to breed the smallest to the smallest, but they always ended up with too big a dog.
Yeah, it's kind of.
They were fine with just leaving the dead fox in the hole.
Yeah,
Yes.
They didn't care.
Yeah.
It was about killing the fox.
Right.
not
It
about
was
the trophy.
predator control.
They didn't want the
Predator.
pelt or anything like that.
And then you just then they would just wait for the dogs to come out when they're satisfied
Or
Yeah.
not,
or not, right?
because the dog had to jump the big rock cairns and outcrops. There's some of them are very steep. And the fox knew the way through, and sometimes the terrier would follow it and slip down deeper.
Right.
And you guys, you're talking to a person now that actually has been on both continents doing it, not just regurgitating
Right. Yeah.
crap here, that what they read on the internet. She's been over there hunting. You went out with the packs, right? Yeah.
Well, with the guys with the
When you say the packs, you say like there's like the tally ho
Fox.
guys.
The foxhound.
The fox guys had, I guess there were probably two groups. There were the guys who had the foxhounds that ran them on the ground, right?
Yeah.
And then the guys, the lowlifes that did it, and the guys that coursed them, right?
call them in and course them or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah,
but
that's
they
When
employed
you-
terrier men,
When
right?
you say
Isn't that what
when you say low lives, you're referring to the Irish.
yeah.
Okay.
So they had the lowlifes like you that would dig them, right? And then the high class people would run them across the ground, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that how it worked?
pretty much. Yeah, you always had a terrier man to go with the hunt, and the
Yeah.
huntsman decided when the fox ran in, do we want to bolt the fox? Do we want to kill the fox? Do we want to go find another one? And the terrier man, they kind of kept him off to the side here,
Out of where nobody could see him.
Yeah, it was like
and then they would make the decision, and he would have the proper dog to either bolt the fox, or if it was a difficult situation, they would just go find another fox and tell him, dig it up and kill it. They would leave him there to do it.
I imagine he would be dressed in rags and have a hunchback or something. They were all smartly dressed. And all.
They
And they're
were
like-
usually,
They're like, get Shawn over here to.
they were not usually big guys. They were small, wiry guys. Eddie Chapman.
that could dig all, move
Uh,
tons
Just
and
dig
tons
my
of
hand?
dirt.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Greg Mosley. They were all
Yeah.
not much taller than I am.
Yeah.
And keen. I mean, they
have a
would stay.
Cool hunting culture over there. I don't know if they still
They
do.
used to.
They don't do that anymore.
No.
Because I came home one day from work. I pull onto there's a little, it's like ag and little farm. This is people that just live there and they work in the city. And then that's and then there's literally like 40 dogs in the road and a guy on a horse with like a red coat. I thought we were getting invaded again. Yeah. And then I just stopped and they went across the road and then all the dogs go across the road into the next field and then another horse comes from and I'm like, did I just like step on a time machine? What's going on here?
They're role playing.
With the town that starts with a W?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a pack there. They have a real pack.
And are they allowed to, are they actually hunting or are they just like in nostalgia like a Civil War reenactment or something? So they can.
They have a hunt. It's called a hunt. It's like a club.
But they actually hunt though?
Yes.
Do you know anything so I could?
Yeah. What do you mean? What do you want to know?
I want to get on a horse and go with them.
Oh, no, you got to join.
I got to join? What do I got to do? I got to like show my net worth or something to join something like that?
You got to join. You got to pay.
Ask James.
I got to ask James to join for me. You know?
Yeah. You got to pay. And then you become a registered member or an
affiliate member.
Affiliate member. And then you turn around and they're called meets.
Okay.
And they meet on Mondays or Wednesdays and then one day during the weekend, something like that.
There's a protocol.
Yeah. We have a good friend who is probably one of the best, master huntsmen here in the United States, Shawn Cully.
Right.
And he has his own hunt and he hunts half the year in upstate New York and half the year down in South Carolina. And he ships the 60.
How far upstate New York?
Up in up by the Finger Lakes.
Oh, that's far. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not that far. I could get up there.
He would gladly take you out where you could follow in a vehicle and see it.
I can't get a horse.
Can you ride?
I have a hard time imagining you on a horse.
Bro, I'm pretty nimble. Dude, we were out. Where were we at the one time? And my bird took off, and I started like sprinting and like leaping over logs. And somebody's like, "Dude, I didn't know you're like pretty nimble." Well, yeah, just because I look fat doesn't mean like I can't. Like I used to be skinny.
Hey, listen, you're not that fat.
Not that fat. All right.
You get up on a 14-hand horse and taller, and
I can gallop.
Have you ridden a horse before?
I've ridden a couple horses. Yeah, it's all in the hips, they say. I'm a wonderful dancer as well, so I know I'm good.
I bet you.
My wife's Latina. Okay, I know.
I went to Costa Rica, and they're all little people there. And we did
what do you mean by little people, dude?
You'd fit in fine with them down there.
He's offensive, isn't he?
And they looked at, we did a little stupid horseback ride thing, and they looked at me and they were like, speaking Spanish, and they're like, bring it. They bring out the big old ugly.
A real horse,
they bring out the big old ugly thing,
right? Instead of a pony,
and throw me on it, and I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm just like.
Could you walk the next day?
Yeah. I was younger then, but I promise you, if I did that same thing now, I'd be crippled the next day.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, somebody was like, "You gotta get with the motion of the horse." I'm like,
that's what
I had no idea. I was just sitting on top of it, just like.
You gotta like tap into like the estrogen that's in your system, and then you can ride better because you have to ride with it.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of like switch your thought process.
I was young. I had my T level.
Wasn't it great? The Eagles won the Super Bowl.
All right, sorry, Teddy. Man. So okay, but I want to know because like I've never seen the ending of those hunts. You just see they banned it and it's unethical, and you see the stuff like from Europe where they're all going crazy. But like those hounds are meant to catch up to the fox and kill it.
If they can, put it to ground.
Right.
Put it to ground and the terror men come in, or they just go, ha-ha, or what, so the points to...
the huntsman decides.
Yeah,
Master of hounds, he
like
decides.
You explained, and same here, though, like same in like those clubs.
It's not here. There's no terrier. There's no terrier men that I know of that are active terrier men in the United States that actually are associated with a hunt.
So maybe that's my way in. Instead of joining and spending all this money, I just get a really good terrier. You give me something, and then I become. They give me a donkey, and I just follow along.
I don't believe they follow through.
I think
so. They don't follow through. So it is more of just a hobby then.
Well, here's the thing: they outlawed coursing using dogs. I think in England or the British Isles to which call it kill. So you're allowed to hunt, and they have you pull it up on your phone. There's 1 million protesters, right. And and stuff like that. So I think you got to get, I don't know the exact laws, but here in the United States, I mean, this is just my opinion and my feeling of the temperature here now in the States is that they don't, I forget what they call the hunt, the actual hunt, not the pack. Well, that's the actual dogs, but all the members of the hunt, I would say very few of them are really there for the chase. It's more of a healthy social event.
Okay.
And they certainly don't want to see, 20 couples tearing a fox in half. You know what I mean?
It's for the riding and the excitement and the jumping cross country riding
camaraderie.
The horse. Camaraderie.
It's kind of like a lot of the falconers these days. They're there to see some birds fly. And
the drinking.
Oh, okay.
The drinking, the eating.
Right.
It's like going fishing for catfish. You go with a 12-pack of beer and hope you don't catch anything.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Did we do the rescue in Long Island
Yes.
on a podcast?
I don't think so.
No. Tell us.
You're talking about terriers being deground. And
Yeah, I want to hear that. I want to hear some stories of you and culverts and little hairy situations. Yeah.
Okay.
But we can talk about the rescue, what you guys are referring to first.
I wanted to get into ratting, and I was steered towards Jack Russell's. And this is, how we get information today, we take it for granted, with Google. And so I don't know how I found out about Jack Russell. I was at a feed store and somebody said, get a Jack Russell for rutting. And so I don't know how I found the Jack Russell Club of America, but I found them. And then I turned around and wrote to them, and they sent me a handbook or a breeder's handbook. And I found the closest breeder to me who's out. Sandy Ferber was her name, and she was out in Long Island. And so I made arrangements to go out there and get a puppy. And I bought my first Jack Russell puppy. And I'm standing there with her, and she's like, where do you live again? And I said, I live in Mahwah, New Jersey. And she's like, I think you live next to an A-rated working judge for these dogs. You should call her because she'll take you out and help you get this dog started. I go, okay. I go, what's his name? And it's Teddy. I said, okay, Teddy what? Teddy Moritz. And she goes, it's a she, not a he. And I go, what? Really? Yeah. So I called, got home. I don't know how long I waited, probably not long. And I called Teddy. She answered. And I said, hey, my name's Shawn O'Neill, and I live over here in Mahwah on Route 202. She goes, where do you live? And I said, right. She goes, you're, as the crow flies, a mile away from, my house. And she goes, be here tomorrow, 8 a.m. So I had I was kind of like in between vehicles at the time. And what I was driving was a Porsche 914, which is not me, not conducive to whatever. Right. But anyway, I pull up there and I got this pre-Sitka outfit on. By
the way, I'm loving the Sitka that you're wearing right now.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah. Thank you. And pre-Sitka outfit on, gain it up, and and I get out. I'm like this waterfowl camo Gore-Tex head to toe in this piss yellow Porsche, and I get out at Teddy's house, and there's smoke pouring out of a wood stove, and there's claws and skulls and fur and blood and guts and snow and all over the place. And I'm kind of looking around like,
and we're the only house there.
Yeah, and I'm like,
he's on the top of a mountain.
Yeah,
and we're the only house there.
I get out there and I'm like, I think I'm going to get killed here. And I walk out. I said, hi, I'm Shawn. And, Teddy comes out, shakes my hand. She goes, we're going to take my friend's dogs out here and see if we can get some working certificates on it. And it was a woman called Noni.
Oh, Noni Risley.
Yeah. And Noni was a character. She was a character. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, very active. Older woman, very active, couldn't sit still, always talking and going 100 miles an hour. So we all jump in a truck and we start going to these different spots. And Noni had some really nice Jack Russells. And she puts one on the ground and it goes down and disappears. And all of a sudden the ground starts thumping.
These are rock outcrops.
It's down. No, it wasn't at the camp.
Oh, we went down the
swamp.
Okay, I know where you are now.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
we're down in the swamp and the ground. We're on this mound. We're kind of wet all around us, and the ground just starts thumping. I'm like, oh wow! And all of a sudden, Teddy walks up to me and hands me this worn out shovel and goes, "Here, dig there." And I start digging. I dig this hole, and I 2-3 scoops, and I open it up. And out pops this raccoon with a dog attached to it, and they're above ground. And I jump back, and I'm like, oh, because I'm, as I thought I was, Jeremiah Johnson at the time, and I realized I was not. And
who were you?
What?
Who were you if you weren't Jeremiah Johnson?
I was Jeremiah Johnson's sister.
Jenny Johnson.
Yeah, I was Jenny Johnson. Yeah. Anyway, I jump back. And these 2 Jack Russells are mauling this raccoon. And Teddy goes over and just steps on it and dispatches the raccoon. And I was like, okay, I'm done. Put a fork in me.
Yeah.
This is what I'm all about now.
Testosterone just spiked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, it was all in. And then it took I made every mistake that you could possibly make with a dog because I probably had this dog on 100 pieces of game because now, I was working in the entertainment business at that time. So I didn't have a 9-to-5 job. So I could go turn around and work 2 days and then not work for 3 weeks. And those 3 weeks I was in Teddy's hip pocket. Okay. Show me this, do me that, show me that. And, anyway, we started marching around the swamps in northern New Jersey, with these 2, I have to stop the story there. So when I first got to Teddy's, she lived in this raised ranch that there was like half an unfinished cellar, then like a mother-in-law suite in the bottom.
A chalet.
Yeah, chalet.
Into the mountain.
Cool. And there was a side wooden steps going up. And Teddy's husband's dad, no, your mom,
lived with us.
Lived in Teddy's mother lived in the bottom part. I went up top and I walk in and there's more snake skins, death, and artifacts. I thought I was like in an Indian sweat lodge, and and up top, and I'm looking around, and I kind of like standing in the kitchen in the transition between the living room. She goes, "Oh yeah, those are my big dogs, keeping the couch warm." And I look over, and there's these 2 black, merled out, greyhound looking dogs. And, I was a bulldog guy, and I'm looking at these dogs. Look at the skinny heads on these dogs. What are they going to do? Or what are they going to do? This, that, and everything else. So we didn't take them that day because the Jack Russells that we proceeded to hunt with for the next 6-7 years, 24/7, were horrible. They were dachshunds. Like dachshunds, in my opinion, will, attack anything, you bring a big dog into the falconry meet yesterday, and, the dachshunds are all going off and everything. But these Jack Russells would, out in the field would attack a big dog because they weren't raised with them, and they didn't have any manners. And that was the American way, or, that Americans did, especially in Jack Russell Club, was the more you had, the better you were. And they became like unmanageable, you know? And so these dogs would attack these lurchers. And so we didn't bring them that time with Noni. But soon after I went hunting with Teddy, and you had just like, literally, I was like 6 months, you were 6 months into getting rid of your terriers and switching to dachshunds. And so we were hunting.
That was a while ago. So when that was like
1988.
That's when we met. And so they,
in 1988
that's
is when I
we
met Teddy. Yeah. And so we were out there one time. We're out in this, and this is after that. I was like, this is what I'm all about. And so another thing I remember is a hunt soon after that. We were out with the dachshunds and the two lurchers, Lily and Kahuna, and I watched them course a cottontail through the swamp that the dachshunds had bolted out of a brush pile, and I was like, oh boy, I like that too.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then we somehow, I guess you knew Steve Cooper.
Yeah. How did we meet Steve?
Well, Steve contacted you because everybody, even pre-internet days, knew of Teddy because of the digging.
Right.
And so if you
he wanted a dachshund.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you wanted a working certificate on your terrier, you had to go to, on the East Coast. Teddy was one of the few A-rated judges that could give him a working certificate. So we hunted with everybody and all up and down.
That's
we had
cool.
Beautiful permissions.
On farms.
Multi-million-dollar farms. We'd be out, and yeah.
That's awesome.
So you could issue that certificate by going out and observing the dog.
Yes.
So
it's a working certificate. The dog has to go in, locate game on its own, bay, bolt, or draw, pull it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I would assess the dog. And if,
Did you break a lot of hearts?
A few.
Like any stories of like anyone getting like irritated that like, no, she's great. She's the best. And you're like,
this lady doesn't know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
I could enlighten you guys in that. I'll be the bad
guy. What else is new? No.
You know, these people have just gotten you permission on this
right.
horse farm with chocolate cake soil that I didn't have in Jersey. Great digging, lots of game.
And chocolate cake on their tailgate.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes. We ate in
coolers filled with every imaginable drink and cheese, and
then we'd stop at that place in
the
New
original
York.
Charcuterie boards.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Then you'd have to tell them your dog is trash. Sorry.
No, that's not how you put it.
No, I know.
A lot of times, it wasn't the dog; it was the people. The people weren't. I came from a deer hunting background, and some of these people that got these dogs because they were cute, and then realized that there was this hunting thing and racing thing and go to ground thing at these trials.
A lot of horse people
had
Russells. That was an in dog at the time, like corgis were for a while. Yeah. If you had a horse in a stable, you should have a Jack Russell.
Oh, okay.
So we got to hunt a lot of nice properties. But it wasn't some of the dogs, and then the Russells really took off. And then you could sit there and watch the decline of the breed.
Would you say, okay, you need to, because we went out yesterday with a gentleman, and they have a young dachshund, and I mean, stuff,
we were given that.
We were trying.
They've never had a dachshund before. They're new to falconry. They're probably new to hunting. They're listeners of the show. Good kid, supportive dad.
Great people, yeah.
And we were giving them some feedback. Things how would they know otherwise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But some people are afraid to do it, but it's hard to do it and do it in a way that's palatable, because you're not trying to be offensive. You just want to help them.
Right. You guide them, right?
Yeah.
And make suggestions.
Yeah. So I told the kid, I was like, he's standing at the feet. I said, just do exactly what you told me one time and said, just walk into the brush and stand there. So that's what he did. Walked in,
Is
and
that
the
that
dog.
father-son team?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're nice people. But
Yes.
And the dog looks up at him for a minute, and then he gets bored and meanders off and starts sniffing and
Great.
working. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they just need to be out with other people with dogs and see the
Right.
sequence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just people get very nervous. They don't want the dog out of their sight.
Well, that's always a problem. I can't see him, and they start calling him back, and
Yeah.
pretty soon the dog is a foot soldier.
Right, because it thinks it's supposed to be by you. 'Cause
He's
you
a
keep calling
hound.
it.
Let him go look. The rabbit is not sitting here.
Yeah.
I know.
We're all
Unlike
tempted
anybody
to do
here,
that.
I've got GPS, and that gives me a lot of comfort. So biggest thing for me is roads. I can look at that and go, all right, they're not working 5 feet off the road.
Yeah.
So I'm not nervous about it. He's 100 yards away from the road. I don't care. He's fine.
Yeah, if it's your first dog and you love it and it's like it's out of sight, you don't have any telemetry equipment on it, nothing. It's like you don't know if he's just running down the street somewhere. So I understand it. But like to your point, the owner, us, sometimes we get in the dog's way.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quit calling him back, right?
Yeah.
And quit sending him in every hole. There's not a rabbit in every hole.
Well, when it's getting dark.
Listen, I felt personally directed at you.
It was, but she.
It's she was there yesterday or something.
I just put her to the hole and say, if you like it, great. They won't go in if there's nothing in there.
You're right.
So if she goes in, great.
Just tell them check.
Check. That's all I do.
And
Check
usually you don't need to do that because they recognize a hole by scent, by
sight too.
Yeah,
and
they see it.
Yeah,
right. They know what they're doing.
And yeah, if Franny sticks her nose in there and then turns around and walks away, I'm not like, no, wait. I just, it's nothing there. If there was something there, she'd go in.
Here's a side story. I sold Dachshund to a man who used ferrets in a state where it was legal to bolt rabbits for his hawks. And he'd seen the Dachshunds and he was interested in one, so he got one. And the dog would sniff a hole and walk away, and that bothered him. So he took a ferret one day with him, and 99% of the time when the dog walked away, there was not a rabbit in there, because after the dog walked away, he'd put a ferret in.
And nothing would happen.
And nothing would happen. So he understood that the dog usually does know. So a little patience and
yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
I never finished that rescue
Sorry,
story.
Yeah,
go on.
let's
No,
get
sorry.
to
It's
it.
just a
No,
side,
that's
a little
fine.
side thing.
No worries. I like listening. But so anyway, I got my first terrier from Sandy Ferber, and fast forward 2-3 years, get a phone call one morning from Teddy, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm waiting for you." And she goes, "We're going to Long Island." I said, "What's up?" She goes, "Sandy Ferber's got a dog in the ground that's been in there for 2 days. 2 dogs in the ground. It's been in there for 2 days." So,
and no transmitter collars.
yeah. And so we go out to Long Island, and Long Island's ground is very much like South Jersey. It's sandy, and we're in this park, okay, a county or state park that we're not even allowed to be digging in. So Sandy had a lot of friends at the time, and I mean, I might be wrong, but I think there might have been 30 people there. So, but the two, Teddy and I show up, with shovels, and we start digging. So if you do a lot of digging, the hole, we stuck the hole, and it was just straight in a bank, straight away.
And there were no exits.
There were no.
When you say stuck the hole,
We ran a stick in
you ran a
the hole.
stick. You
Stick
took
in
a
there.
sapling or something, and you tried to see where it goes and feel.
And we could not hear
Could not hear anything.
the dogs
we could not
barking
touch
or
a dog.
digging. Right. It was way back in there.
So Teddy and I started digging, and it was probably one of the few times that we started digging together, but feet apart. Like we were digging 5 feet apart, and we started making the hole 5 feet wide. By the time we were done with this, you could have parked a Volkswagen Bug in the entrance hole.
What? Everybody's just standing there watching you guys, or are people?
In the beginning, people were helping us, but then, from what I remember, they were culling out. And this was like a full-time job for Teddy and I. We dug every day, back in those days.
Yeah, we didn't get them the first day.
Yeah, no, but we dug all the time so we could dig all day long,
right.
So we dug back and we, got back and made a 4-foot hole. We were probably 12 feet back into this bank. And you could see the delineation between the soil. It was where it was like sugary sand.
It was gravel on top.
Yeah.
And sand underneath.
It was easy digging.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it was difficult.
I'm looking at a picture here of Teddy inside of the hole.
Yeah.
And there was a guy that had a hoe, and he would, we'd push dirt back, and he would take the hoe and scrape it, and then he'd give me the hoe, and I would scrape that back to him, and he would take some more out.
Yeah.
Buckets of it.
I got to hurry up and finish the story before Carl gets back inside. So anyway, we dig into this ground and get back in there. And we ended up making a hole. We were probably over 30 feet back.
I was going to say we were at least 30 foot because the hose was.
We were over 30 feet back, and the last 10 feet was big enough for Teddy
tight
to lay on her stomach and go back
and use the hoe to scrape the sides.
Yeah,
and tell them about
the
the
dirt's
hose
over your head like a tunnel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're digging like a ditch, basically. Big
No.
ditch.
No, I am digging a tunnel.
So you're not concerned about that? I mean,
well, that's what I'm getting for before Carl gets back inside. So anyway, Teddy gets back there and is actually able to touch one of the dogs, I don't know, with your hand or a tool or something.
Feel it.
Yeah. And they were like shocked in the sense that you'd think they'd want to run right out, but they were kind of like out of it. And the fox and they were there, and the tunnel still kept going beyond them. And there was no fox there. By the way, guys, they were in on a fox. So Teddy got her hands on it and got the dogs to come out. I think we dug for 2 days, right?
Yeah. Well, the second day when we were about 30 feet back in there, they put in the water hose.
Yeah.
That's how we knew it was 30 feet back in there, because I dragged it with me. They figured if it collapsed, I could breathe through the hose.
Well, not knowing that the dirt, the 10 tons of dirt
would pin the hose.
Pin her chest where she couldn't expand her chest.
Right. Yeah, that's how you die. Yeah.
But it was a nice gesture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. OSHA, not OSHA certified.
No.
At that point, going on there.
No.
But anyway.
It was 2 days, at least 2 days.
We got the dogs rescued, and
one was alive.
Oh, one. So one passed away.
One was dead, cold and dead.
It was?
Yeah.
I thought we got both of them. I can't remember.
Yeah, I believe one was cold and dead. The other was alive.
Yeah.
And Sandy didn't want us to go on further to find out what they were after. But it was sad. If we'd had a transmitter collar.
Yeah.
The irony of it, and I don't know if you know the end of the story, the dog that was alive was one of her show dogs. Sandy had beautiful Jack Russell.
One of her top stud dogs. I forget the dog's. I want to say it was Uki's, my dog's sire. No, it wasn't.
Anyway, that particular dog, its tail had been docked too long for the standard of what a Jack Russell should look like in a show ring. Okay. There's a certain inches, right? So after the rescue and the dog recuperated and everything, Sandy's husband is a veterinarian, and she took that dog to him and said, I want the last inch of the tail cut off. And the dog died on the table.
Oh, God. Did you know that?
I remember now.
The irony of it.
Yeah.
The
all that
irony
effort
of it.
to save the dog, and then
I have a picture of me in that tunnel, and I'm on my hands and knees, like crawling out. With a flash, little.
Yeah, I don't have that picture. I have to get that.
Somewhere. And
can you send it to us too? I want to see that.
And mag light, and I look at that picture sometimes, and there was a picture taken of the dogs and everybody the second day after the rescue standing in front of the tunnel. And there's a group of people there, like, at least 10 or 15 people.
Yeah, I think Linda came.
And we snapped a picture, and the holes, it's as big as that right there.
Bigger than it looks here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was just the beginning right there, the first day. But I look at that stuff and I think back, my God, we could have died so easily.
Oh,
yeah.
You see when they're working in big ditches beside the road, they have those things with the metal
barriers,
plates and the
right?
arms.
Yes, I've admired those.
Yeah.
Where was that when I needed it? But it was cool working with the hoe to move stuff.
Yeah, 95% of the digs that we used to do were straight down, though. There wasn't any,
No, I never worried about it.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this already, Teddy, but the tracing collar, because there's only one company that makes it now.
Mm-mm.
And I'm trying to get my hands.
Well, there's more that make them for terriers, but like for dachshunds, she likes the
Bell and Flint. Is it Flint?
Yes, I believe so.
Bellman and Flint or Flint.
They're shut down until next season.
They're too big for the dachshunds.
Ferret locators is what we want.
That's what we want.
We want
but you could get a bigger collar for terriers.
How big is it? Like bigger than my e-collar?
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah, it's about 3.5 inches. And
I need something.
Yeah, you need something small. I mean, your dog would be.
Yeah.
It's like those GPS collars that I put on my dogs. People laugh at them, but when they see them out in the field, they go, "Yeah, it's fine." And
his dogs are very strong and tough, and so they just. If I put that on Franny,
it'd be like she has a dumbbell around her neck.
Yeah, it's too much.
But somebody was mentioning yesterday, they were like, "Man, somebody could make a lot of money if they made smaller GPS collars for dogs." And my first thought was, well, there's probably no market because very few people.
No.
But then again, other people may appreciate a smaller GPS, even if their dog didn't need it.
Yeah, the ones they do make, they say are for 10-pound dogs. Well, it's...
Even on my 10-pound dogs, they look comical.
And you
they
can
look
see
stupid.
a dog wearing something like that. If it's working around the side and he's trying to go in a hole or through roots, you can see it.
When they start to go into a hole, I just take it off. But it'd be nice if you didn't have to worry about it. And you could locate them. That'd be even cooler.
I think a Hawk transmitter.
I have since our last podcast with you, she has a RT Turbo UHF.
It's very small, and I believe you can at least find the area where it is.
The problem with that, though, is like, I wonder if I stood over with my receiver and really fine-tuned it, if I could find her under the ground, or if it would just be shooting out of the hole and bouncing all around, and then I'd be getting a signal from behind me or something.
I buried my Marshall transmitter in our shooting mound 3 feet back in and collapsed all the sand over it. And then I walked our 7 acres, and that receiver pointed to that mound every time, no matter where I was on this property.
But when you're above it, can you?
But I don't know. If I know where the dog, if I know the hole where a
then
dog
you can
is,
work from
I
there.
will get it.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Or get somebody to help me get it.
Yeah.
But as far as locating it, I don't know. But just knowing what hole the dog is in, because I've lost a dog without a collar. And I didn't know what hole it was in. I was in a strange place, and I didn't know.
Yeah.
And she had been in many holes, and it's totally my fault and my guilt. And, you learn to put that collar on.
Yeah.
But it's the ferret collar. And now they make ferret collars for pet ferrets for in the house when you can't find your ferret.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you go to a pet shop or online.
But how far does it go? How does it go? How many feet under the ground does it go?
Right, that would be the question.
Right.
And,
it might be better.
and whether it's sturdy. You get dirt in it and everything else.
Yeah.
Is ferreting legal in the UK?
Oh, yeah.
No, in the UK,
Still is.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they've changed so many laws.
And
I didn't know
Europe.
if you could still do it.
Because I have asked German dachshund people, why don't you use the miniatures for bolting rabbits and what have you? He said, we use a ferret.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not, right? If
Yeah.
you
In the
have
US,
the
it's
option.
illegal. Or is it a state-by-state thtate thing?
Somebody told me it's illegal in the entire United States.
I heard that, and then I heard other people say, no, like in Utah, you can do it. And I'm like, I thought it was
I'm
illegal.
assuming some of the more western states or southern states that there are no laws about it. But I know here in the East,
It's illegal.
in New Jersey, you may not take a ferret in the woods and fields of the state.
All right. What about the local parks? And
You know Garrett Mountain?
Yeah.
Over there, Patterson, whatever.
Yep.
There used to be a wild population of ferrets because
Really?
people used to dump them there.
Oh, well, that's the problem is they're
They don't reproduce in the wild. The predators kill them.
Yeah, the predators are killing, but I think that's the main concern with the government not wanting us to use them is because if they get loose and whatever.
Well, they neuter them now.
Casey
before.
loves the government.
It's my favorite.
So that's the story of the rescue.
That's incredible.
I believe that one dog was dead.
Yeah.
And the other dog was okay.
I just love how when something like that happens, people just show up to help. Like I just made one call. Paul stopped what he was doing with his job, canceled his meeting, showed up, called Tom Cullen. He shoots over. He brings 2 of his employees.
There you go.
The whole back of his truck is filled with like 1 million tools, and we just went to town on the side of that hill and we got Franny out.
Yeah, you're lucky.
She wasn't even
you're
stuck,
lucky
though.
to have that. I have Carl, but he's got chainsaws and tractors.
Yeah. But we discussed this already. I don't believe she was stuck. I think she was turned around and confused, and because she had no dirt caked on her, nothing. She was just sitting there.
In my opinion, the dogs we were talking about just now could have walked out of that hole.
You think?
We ran a hole like this all the way back.
So what do you think it was?
I don't know. It's that $1 million question, like with Franny. Franny could have walked out.
When I found her, I stuck my hand in there and I could feel all around her, and she was just like scared, sitting there.
My dogs got under this steel plate shed and got into a skunk in Kansas. There were like 2 or 3 ways they could have got out. I think the skunk's gas probably.
Yeah.
Blinded them, confused them, or they just
like those skunks.
They didn't want to quit. They still had something alive with fur on it in front of them.
Yeah.
God almighty.
I lost a dog in a junk pile, like a farm dump where they put everything over.
Yeah.
And there were rolls of fencing. And
that's right.
And the groundhog, and he could squeeze in amongst that roll of fencing. And when a dog gives that last push and he exhales, he couldn't inhale.
Was that your Patterdale?
No, that was that little white, tiny little Jack Russell I had. What a great little dog. Razzmatazz.
Yeah.
Had
Raz.
brown ears. If he lived, I might still have Russells. But there's all junk and you have to move everything. And I left him overnight because I couldn't find him. It was before collars.
Yeah.
And I went back the next morning, finally moved enough stuff, and he was wrapped in that wire fencing. I mean,
what are you going to do?
Get another one?
Yeah.
They're doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. That's what I tell people. It is, anytime you turn a hunting dog loose, things can happen.
I told my wife if a cassowary, the big birds.
Yes.
If a cassowary or something ever kicks my head in, don't be mad at it. I went out doing what I do.
What were you doing to the cassowary to make it kick you?
The reason I said that is somebody got killed in America by a cassowary, a pet cassowary.
Was that recently?
This is not too long ago.
Those are the big blue ones with the
the big Australian birds. They look like a dinosaur.
The big toes.
Yeah, that's what they do. They cut you open.
They got killed by it, and the wife said, my husband always told me if anything ever happened to him, not to be upset about the animal. He knew the risks, and he was doing what he wanted to do.
Okay,
it's not the way you want to die, though.
It's his life
because he didn't it's not like it definitely cut him and he bled out. I would imagine.
I don't know, but
do you remember when
it was kind of a
you
joke
had
that was lost on everyone?
under a pile of boards behind an industrial park, and that guard came?
Yeah.
I think I told him that story. We had a Patterdale under a pile of debris behind the industrial park, and she was working a possum, I think.
I had a dog in the ground behind a school, next to a school in New Jersey, and we were 4 feet down and digging to her. And I looked up, and there was a pair of shiny boots standing next to the hole. And I looked up, and it was a police officer with his gun out. And he's like, "What are you guys doing?" And he said, "We're trying to get our dog back, And
why's your gun out? What do you think I'm doing back here?
Yeah. And
put the gun away, bro.
Yeah.
Teddy was the perfect camouflage because she'd go into her nice little old lady act and be like, "My dog's down in a hole. We're trying to get it out."
Would you act, Teddy?
Yeah.
You put it on a little bit?
She poured on. Yeah.
That's
Don't lie.
Tears
Yeah.
against a man, no problem.
That's hilarious.
Little did they know there was 5 feet of death standing in front of them that way she could, she's a 5th degree black belt with a shovel. And she would kill that cop with a shovel. But we dug down, and the guy's standing there and he goes, "Your dog, what's it doing down in there?" I go, "We think it's after some animal, and I don't think we knew what it was yet." And all of a sudden I'm down there and I hit that last opening in there, and I opened up right on top of the dog and the opossum, and I grab and hand. I go, "Teddy, here she is," and I hand Teddy the dog, and then I reach down and grab this opossum and pull it out, and that cop jumped back and had his gun pointing at it. He goes, "Do you want me to kill it? Do you want me to kill it?" And I'm like, No. Just let it go. I'm just happy I got my dog back. And he goes, and right away we got up and started filling the hole back in, and but it was literally like 20 feet from elementary school on a Sunday or something, there closed down. It was funny.
The one guy asked us what we were doing. I said, "We got a dog in there and he's stuck and we're trying to get it out." And he says, "You're not hunting, are you?"
No.
And again, I said, "Oh, no." And he looks at me and he says, "You sure you don't have a crossbow under your coat?"
What an oddly specific thing to...
Yeah.
Come again?
I said, what an oddly specific thing to accuse you of.
Well, I think, it was during deer season always, and I think he didn't know any better what to ask.
Back in those days, nobody knew what we were doing.
Right.
They could not wrap their heads around it. You know what I mean?
The one guard came out and I sort of explained what I was doing. He said, "Well, check this out." And he goes to his official vehicle and he pulls out a great big machete. "I took this off a guy last week." All right.
You start clapping for him.
Yeah.
Night watchmen and guards have their own.
They get strange out there by themselves.
And I told you about rescuing the dachshund from under a storage trailer.
Yeah, you told me, and Carl showed up, and then everybody
cut a hole in the.
Yeah, you told us that one. Man,
when the dogs go in, it's up to you to get them out.
I just feel like Franny was under a shipping container the other day, and it's just it's always a risk.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of James, he had a really good point. He said the whole work is just, he's like, "I'm out there to have no stress, and the whole work just adds stress." And I get it. But he said, Franny, a dog like that, he said the risk, and it makes sense, the risk of her getting stuck has got to be very low because she's so tiny. Mm-hmm. She'd really something would have to happen for her to get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
She's just, not much bigger than the rabbit.
The only dog in a groundhog hole that I've had stuck, I think maybe I said it last time, it was in March when the ground heaves.
Right.
All right. And she had gone around a corner after a groundhog and a rock fell in.
Behind her.
Right.
Yeah. You told us that. You would have no idea that happened. You'd be sitting there for an hour, for days. Another quick question I had, because I've done this, and I think it's because you told us to do this, but I just want the listeners to hear. Leaving a dog overnight, what's the procedure? A crate at the entrance, a have a heart trap. Someone said they cover the hole, they stick something in the hole so they can't come out. Because when you leave, you don't want the dog to just come out and then run off into the woods and get hit by a car.
True.
I think somebody said they were worried about a coyote getting it, so they covered the hole so the dog couldn't get out.
Yeah,
that would be a good thought.
We did the dog kennel a couple times. Remember, I found remember Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
Were you there for that dig with Ellie?
No, people think I were, but it was your mother
and Phil and Paul.
Yeah,
I left because
for whatever reason I couldn't or didn't get there.
Yeah, I was going to get in a fist fight. I was attempting to get in a fist fight with the manager
in a cemetery.
Yeah, and they dragged me away, and I lost my dog down that hole. But she would not come out of the hole. She was like Miguel's dog, Willie, where you'd be trying to grab him and he's running down the hole to get away from you because he wants to get in the hole. That's how Ellie was. She'd go in the hole I don't even know if there's a rabbit in the hole. She'd be in there.
She just wanted to be down there.
It got to the point where like she'd go in the hole. We'd give it like a minute. Nothing came out. I would take Abby and just keep going. And then she'd catch up to us, or we'd come back to the hole and stand there. And then like it was like 4 or 5 times before she actually died, where we had to leave the crate with her blanket right next to the hole.
Some of them are more determined than others. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I got a question about that. And you probably use these at work. Fiber optic cameras. Anybody ever use those for holes?
No, but they've been recommended.
Yeah, like a snake. For a snake.
Yeah. Like
it just runs along the bottom.
A drain snake.
Yeah, you could do it. $3,000. Lug it in the woods, and
I've seen them on Amazon.
That's
cheaper.
why the ferret finder collars are your answer.
Only one company that I found makes them, and they're not making anything till next season, and they're not taking orders right now.
Those English people?
Yeah. So like I'm like, what, like you on eBay? Listen, if anybody's listening who has an extra ferret collar, I need it. I'll buy it off you.
Yeah, not a terrier finder.
No, like a Devon, preferably the Devon collar.
The old Devons, right?
And a receiver. I'll take that in 2 seconds. But
I think if you're motivated enough, you can find one.
I've been looking around everywhere.
Bet I'll find one today.
I mean, they weren't. It wasn't a big market to start with.
Right. Yeah.
England, yes, but not here.
What other stories can we cover? What other stuff should we cover with you guys?
Oh my!
We're lucky enough to have both of you here.
We really are, and we're very grateful. Seriously, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for.
I have a very busy schedule.
So just so the listeners know, we Aaron mostly set this whole thing up behind the scenes, because when we had the interview with Teddy a couple months ago, we were talking about Shawn, and then Teddy was just getting nostalgic and she misses him. So we said let's try to get him out here. And then he's like, I got so many dogs, I got stuff. And then we just kept pushing him. So we got Shawn out here to the New Jersey meet, and we set the whole thing up as a surprise.
Yeah, once you say what we did.
Yeah.
The Sporting Chance podcast supplied prostitutes to my room last night.
Courtney, bleep that out.
Yeah.
No, they strong armed me, but it was way past time. Teddy and I probably haven't been face to face in 16 years. We figured, and it's been too long. So I had a friend that went through a traumatic experience, and he was just came out of a coma, and he's home. So, and then the New Jersey falconry meet was coming up, so it was a good time to come out and put these two things together. And so last night, Teddy had no idea that I was coming out here. So I came up with the idea that, hey, go into the hotel and tell her that, hey, some guy hit her car. And they went in there and got her, and she comes out looking to decapitate
storming
some
out.
guy.
Looking for a shovel.
Well, you got to set it.
Yeah.
She's looking for a shovel.
Yeah.
You got to set it up. So we had Shawn park his car right up, like against Teddy's car in the parking lot, put the hazards on.
Big black pickup truck. Can't
and then
see in the window.
He takes
holding papers.
He takes the owner's manual for the rental and like puts it up to his head like this with his like a disguise, like he's like a bad spy or something. And then I'm trying to act like I'm trying not to like smile, because I see Harrison and my wife comes out like, what happened? They all know, and they're all smiling. I'm trying not to smile. I'm like, hey Teddy, how are you? And then I walk over to his window. And Teddy's like looking at her car. She's like, where's it hit? I'm like, on the side. And then I go up to Shawn's window. I'm like, hey, buddy, you got insurance, man? And then like Teddy walks over, and I like move, and I have my camera going the whole time, and I slide around the other side. And then it took her like a split second. And then
at first you said something and she didn't know who.
I said, ma'am, I hit your car. And then she just looked at me, and I couldn't believe she recognized me, because
sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, my heart recognized him. Your old hunting buddy. I know him.
Yeah.
Woo, what a wonderful surprise.
That was nice. It was emotional. It was emotional.
It was.
Yeah, I was a little.
My wife was like tearing up. I'm like, you crying? She's like, no. I'm like, you were crying.
When you hunt with someone, I think you have a different relationship with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only 3 things I'd ever come back to New Jersey for, and that would be pizza, bears, and walk hunting bears and Teddy. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he was
nice.
a great person to hunt with. Very mellow, believe it or not frantic like you.
I'm frantic. Yes.
Yeah.
You told a great story about Shawn. It just kind of speaks to who he is. And you said you're working a hole in a state where you're allowed to use ferrets, and he has his hand like on a jumble of roots. And he's just
Remember
like
this?
leaning, and the ferret comes up and just bites the crap out of his, like right in the meat of his.
Latches between his thumb and his forefinger and won't let go.
Yeah.
Now, most people would just,
Yeah. You know what I would do.
just
Scream. He'd rip the ferret in half over his head.
he just very slowly lifted his hand to where he could get his thumb on the ferret's throat and choked it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
No hoopla, no, a little blood, but no.
I love that ferret.
It's a shame you don't use it in the state you're allowed to use it.
Yeah. We used to ferret all over, and they were great, but you couldn't. I couldn't reproduce them. I would try to get. It's very hard in the United States to get full at that time. Get unneutered or spayed ferrets, and then when you did get them, the females had. I believe my memory's a little cloudy, but they had to be bred. It wasn't good.
You couldn't let them keep coming in heat.
Yeah, they couldn't keep coming in heat.
What would happen?
Pyometria, I think it is.
And prolapsed. They would prolapse their uterus.
Like a cat, they keep coming in until they're bred.
Right. Yeah.
And
Oh, that's interesting.
So, and then I couldn't, and it just never had success in raising them. I've raised everything else under the sun, but I couldn't get ferrets to, I think I had one litter of kits one time. And
a totally different subject when you lived up in the cabin up at the watershed property. Mm-hmm. The turkey hunter, the father and son.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it has nothing to do with dogs, but.
Let's hear it.
I had fighting cocks at the time, just a hobbyist there in the backyard along with my dogs. And
Like a rooster?
What?
Gamecocks, yeah.
Gamecocks, yeah.
Yeah.
And
razor blades and everything on them?
No.
Marshmallows.
Yeah. And anyway, I lived in a cul-de-sac in a cabin that was built in the 1900s, and it was spray painted. The guy who owned the cabin back in the 70s owned Sunoco gas stations. So he had all this yellow road paint, and the whole cabin was painted yellow. By the way, Teddy, the other night, Friday night, I went by that place and looked at it, and it didn't burn down with the fires.
Oh,
and
good.
Man, it looked. They refinished everything. It was beautiful. But anyway, we were up there, and I had a lot of problems. I had to keep the dogs quiet, and I had to, I had my kennels in the back, and I had neighbors, but we lived, maybe 10, 15 houses in the middle of hundreds of, off of Echo Lake Road, hundreds of acres of watershed property. And so I just got back from a long trip. I think I was hunting out in Illinois, and I literally just got back like at 4 or 5 in the morning from an all night drive. And I laid down to go to bed, and I wake up to a gunshot. And I'm like, oh, I got my, I said, I got my neighbor now, meaning like, because I had problems with neighbors, of course. And, the chickens and the dogs. And I said, I'm going to go catch them. I think they just, legally shot a deer. So I'm going to go just say, hey, what are you doing? And have like a trump card. That was my thought.
Right.
So I go outside, and I go out my back door, and I walk into my backyard, make a left, go across my neighbor's backyard, then a gravel way that went back to a couple more houses. And then I'm standing in the front yard of where this came from, and this particular house backed up into the woods. And I see this 6'5" guy in camo running at me with a shotgun. And I just froze. And right there at that moment, I said to myself, I really felt that this guy was going to kill me. It was this expression he had on his face. And he just runs right up to me because I'm standing kind of in this gravel driveway, runs right up to me, makes a left hand and runs right by me, makes a left hand turn. And I just watch. He doesn't say one word to me, but his face was like, he had this expression on his face. And I'm like, looking, and I look past him and I can hear some thrashing coming from behind the house in the woods because the woods came right up to this backyard. And so I start fast, really walking towards that thrashing. And as I get to the thrashing, I see a pair of legs with boots on. And I see legs flopping around. Now I run the last 20 feet. And I run up and I see this 15-year-old kid. And he's got half his face missing. His jaw's gone. His front teeth are hanging on by a thread. Part of his hand's gone. And his tongue was just, the base of his tongue was sticking, like hanging out. He was trying to talk and he was looking at me. And blood was running down in his throat into his lungs and everything. So I kind of tilted him on his side. And, I'm sure he was going into shock. I was in shock. And, not really thinking. I'm asking him, hey, what happened? He can't tell me. But I knew that this guy had shot him. So positive this guy had shot him. And the kid's shotgun was laying, right there, right next to him. So at this point, the neighbor had seen me cut across the yards and had seen this guy just run up the driveway out to the main road and leave. So he comes walking up the side of the house where I was in the backyard, and I look at him and he didn't even see that. I go, call 911, call University, tell them that you need the helicopter from University Hospital, which was the biggest trauma hospital there within driving distance. They handle all the gunshots in Newark and everything. So he just runs and goes, and within minutes, the ambulance is there and everything, and they get this kid stabilized. They land a helicopter right in the horse pasture across the street. There's a rental. You probably know the place. There's a horse dude ranch, right? Or there was right across the street. I don't know if it's private residence now, but they land that there, life flight the kid right to Newark, gone. And I'm standing there and I'm just like, covered in this kid's blood. I'm in shock, and the cops are interviewing me. He goes, what happened? I go, and I tell him what happened. So all of a sudden they just jump in a car and take off. And they catch this guy running with a shotgun up Route 23 towards Hamburg, just out of his mind, just running up the side of the road, 23 North.
Was he in camo?
Full camo. Turns out it was a 15-year-old kid, and it was the son of this guy's best friend. And the way the story goes, and I don't have proof, and I'm not insinuating, and I'm not doing anything. I'm just telling you what I was told. That this kid had the gun loaded and stepped over a log, and the gun went off and he shot himself. Yeah. It was a hunting accident.
When you said his hand, it sounded like it.
Came
off, right? Like
the guy turned around and saw this and literally lost his shit. Lost it and took off and just was running for whatever. So they got him in the back of a police car and brought him back. They go, is this the guy? I go, yeah, that's him. And he goes, what did you see? And I said, this is what I saw. And I told him exactly what I just said here. And, I said, I didn't see it. I heard it. And I was positive but it was the springtime and they were turkey hunting.
Yeah.
So anyway, I lived in that particular area for about another year, but I was very good friends with the neighbors around. And so 2.5 years later, the kid came back and he was semi, and still 2 years later, in multiple operations, they trying to put him back together and make him normal. But he came back to thank me because he remembers me that because he talked to the neighbors that he's grateful that I saved his life. Yeah.
Jeez.
You seem like you attract weird stuff like that.
Hey.
I think when you're just out and about that much, stuff happens.
Yeah.
That's incredible. At least you were there. Apparently the other guy's not cool under pressure, I guess.
No.
And then, so they like that guy. So what? Like he just
freaked.
He just literally lost it. And the police officer, when he was there, told me that this guy is inconsolable.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, he was inconsolable.
Just don't know how you're going to react. You could imagine how you'll react to something like that, but until you experience it, you won't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's.
Thanks for ending this on a positive note.
Yeah.
It just popped into when he mentioned the cabin up there. I said, I remember the turkey hunting.
Yeah, that's a wild story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I shot a dog accidentally.
Yeah. Was it an accident? You sure?
Unfortunately, it was one of those freaky things that it couldn't happen, and it did. There was cement pipes, maybe 2 feet around. It was a pile of them stacked. And where the round edges touched, the groundhog was in there. And I had several dachshunds, and they're trying to get out and bark and bark and bark at it. And I had the 22 with me. And there was one bitch that she was a softer dog and a younger dog. And I had a bell on her, and I knew she was out hunting, and she didn't want to come close to the older dogs that were working the groundhog. Whatever that is, I don't want.
Right.
So I heard her bell going around the swamp, and I got the other dogs to me, and I put the 22 in, and I pulled the trigger, and it killed the groundhog, and eventually with sticks and stuff, I got it out. And the little bitch came back to me, and she didn't seem to want to hunt out. I'm thinking, all right, be that way, and we moved on, and she came with us, but she still just stayed around. I said, what's the matter with you? And, finally something said something's wrong with the dog. And I picked her up, and she had a hole in her chest. So took her to the vet and the x-rays. And apparently, because I looked at the groundhog later, I shot it in the chest, and the bullet came out its rear end and went out into the swamp. I mean, the dog was not at the back of the pile. She was way out there. I could hear the bell, and the bullet went through her.
Did the dog live?
No, we put her down because it went through the left side where there's the heart, the liver, kidney. And my vet, he kept me sitting there quite a while because he had to talk to his, he said, we can try to save her. And,
Jeez. Yeah.
It was a 22 long. And
yeah.
I mean, you couldn't plan it.
No.
That she would be facing me when that bullet went through the groundhog. And for a while, I started using 22 shorts.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's changed. And the irony of it is she had been in heat. I had driven her to Long Island to breed to a stud dog. And if she had taken and been pregnant, she would not have been out hunting. Mm. But it turned out the stud dog was sterile. So, Nanis, little red Nanis.
I remember. Dog.
Just,
yeah.
You just never know.
Yeah.
Stuff happens. But what are you going to do? Stay home?
No, that's the thing. That's the thoughts that I've been having with this recent loss. It's like we love them to death. We need them though.
Yes, we need them.
So it's like I can't replace them, but I kind of have to replace them.
Right.
Yesterday was a perfect example of why you need them.
Yeah.
I, had no idea that these guys, I showed up on tourist time at 12 o'clock with these guys. And so we go and start hitting these fields. Little do they know that they were over them twice the day before, once that morning. And I'm like, I'm walking the fields looking down, seeing boot tracks. I'm like, guys, there's been guys in here. So, oh, yeah, we were hunting here yesterday. And I was like, okay.
They're hunting there when we pulled in.
Yeah.
And beat the whole thing out right in front of us.
So, yeah, there was some falconers in there that turned around and were hawking and, didn't get anything. And then the crew I was with showed up and put these, the dachshunds down. And I think Harrison caught 3 within an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, I told you as soon as I saw you. They beat it out with sticks, and we know the field well. So when the red tail went down and it checked off like that and landed, he's in there beating like this. He's like, "Oh, where'd it go?" I'm like, "There's like 4 holes right in there, and they always go in those holes." And then I didn't even put Franny on the ground. I just walked right over, dropped her down, let her smell which one. She went right in. One shoots this way, split second later, another one shoots that way, and then the hunt was on, and Harrison caught his limit, and that was it. It's like, why not have them?
The dogs make it happen.
They make it happen. Without them, we're kind of screwed.
I heard that so many times last night from guys that have the dogs, and they say the dog makes it happen.
Yeah,
I couldn't do this without the dog.
I don't want to do it without the dog.
Well, I don't want to either.
Yeah.
But it was very gratifying that somebody besides myself can see the worth of a little foo-foo dog like that.
Yeah, how many dachshunds you see last night?
I must have saw.
I mean, individuals with dachshunds, I guess. Would be better.
It was crazy. I couldn't believe. And the thing that made me happy was, in some shape, way, or form, they were performance bred, meaning they all came from certain lines and were bred to, accompany the bird of prey, the hawk. It was remarkable how many are there.
They weren't little fat.
No, they weren't fat, and they weren't, people basically.
There are a couple fat ones.
There's a couple fat ones.
Yeah, but I think they're retired.
Those are the retired ones, yeah, on the couch.
I got one more good story.
Okay.
Every Halloween, around Halloween, Teddy and I would turn around and fly our dogs out to
Our lurchers
out to South Dakota,
North Dakota.
Why Halloween?
That was a good time to go.
After the crops were off and before the deer season started.
Oh.
And we'd go out there to go run white-tailed jacks with our dogs. So I think we were out there one year, and then the second year we took Steve Cooper and Marty Lieberman with us the first year, and
Long Islanders.
Yeah, and we
in North Dakota.
That was enough. 1 year was enough for them because there's a lot of walking, and it's walking through chisel plow where the chisel plow pieces are as big as pizza boxes, and they stick to your feet. And
cold and windy.
Yeah, it's especially being from the East Coast, you're not into that stuff. So this particular trip, we're going the second year, and it's just me and Teddy this time, and our dogs are in cargo. So, hey, I can screw in. I suffer from I can screw in the light bulb better than the next guy. So I take my collie lurcher, and I put it into this keep. So I vet the dog out 2 months before. In August, and I buy special food and I worm the dog out, and I'm running it, conditioning it every day, hunting it. So by the time we fly out there, we're going to be rock solid, and I'm going to have a dog that's going to, what you're calling. So this particular trip, I forget the gentleman's name that was out there. Dale
Saylor.
Dale Saylor.
That's a good name.
Dale and his wife fostered kids, but like for the interview, let's call them a tribe. Okay. I landed out there, and Dale and Teddy's idea was before we run jacks, because we do this every time we're out here, we're going to go call coyotes in and slip our lurchers on. And, this is way back, and Dale had been practicing and calling coyotes. And Dale was a falconer, wasn't he, at one time?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so I get out there, and I don't know what it was.
Dale was a falconer because his son was a falconer, and he wanted to hunt rabbits around old farmsteads, and he bought a dachshund from me.
Right.
So that led to, I said, do you have jackrabbits out there? He said, oh, yeah, I can show you a field with 20 of them in there. I said, you lie. He said, come out.
Yeah,
he did.
That's how.
Don't tell Teddy that shit.
Yeah. He said, come out, and we put our dogs on a plane, but this is a second trip. So we get out there, and I got my Grifter was her name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And beautiful dog, tremendous dog. And so get out there, and I don't know what it was, but I walk into this house, and the year before we stayed in a hotel.
Right.
This year, since the guys weren't with us, Dale let us stay at his house. Well, he had about 4 or 5 boys that were, I don't know, teenage, whatever, 12, double digits into teens. And I walked in, and the minute I walked in there, I had one hanging off of each arm, hanging off my neck. It was WWE, the whole, starting right there. And, I'm like trying to, listen to the conversation, and Teddy and Dale talking, and these kids are wrestling me, biting me, hanging on me, talking to me, asking me a million questions, punching me, and I mean, doing everything. So we go to bed. We wake up early that morning, and I'm like, oh, thank God I'm going to get away from these kids. And we wake up, and Dale goes, okay, I'll go fire up the van. And he fires up the van, and we slide our dog crates in the back. And I look at the van, and it's a passenger van. It could hold 20 people. And I'm like, oh no. So now he goes, listen, it's a 2.5 hour drive one way to this coyote calling place we're going to go to. We get inside the van, and Teddy sits in the front seat. Dale's driving. I'm right behind there, and the kids are behind me, beating the living crap out of me the whole time. The whole time. So every time we pulled over for a bathroom break, they're eating yo-yos and licorice and sugar daddies and what's the Pop Rocks, whatever crap they were eating. So they were on basically crack. And then the kids were all on, what's that drug called? Ritalin. Yeah. Right. So they're literally beating me to death. Okay. So we go out there, and he goes, boys, leave Shawn alone. And 2 minutes later, they're beating the crap out of me again. And so now I'm like, I'm going to start hurting these kids. Right. And I start like putting them in headlocks and wrist locks and choking them and putting my finger in their ear. And one of them cried once, but it didn't stop. We get to the coyote calling place, and I'm already frazzled. And, we get out there, and he tells the boys to stay in the truck, and we sit down, and we go to the coyote. We walk in 200, 300, 400 yards away from the place, and we kind of hunkered down. We're holding our dogs by our collars, we're all ready, and it's blowing 100 miles an hour, not a great day for calling, So we're calling, and we went to a couple other spots calling, and then we end up in the middle of this one horse town, and we stop for lunch. So we sit down, and we're in this cafe with every farmer from a mile around looking at us and looking at, the kid, and the kids literally start taking the cafe apart, they're like spider monkeys all over the place. And so I'm like dying now. Like, I want to go run jackrabbits. So finally, Dale goes, okay, we're going to make it back to Fargo, the outskirts of Fargo there where we're staying, right? And run jacks. We get back there about 4:00 in the afternoon, and we start walking out across this chisel plow. And Teddy's like, hey, don't do this. Don't let your dog go. Don't do this. And, whatever. And wait for this. And I am mentally, I have the blinders on. I'm looking straight ahead. I'm like, I want to get my dog on a jackrabbit. I don't care what it takes. So I'm walking 50 yards in front of me in this wicked chisel plow. This jack jumps up. And to me, these white-tailed jacks look 45 pounds. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they get up and take off. And I let Grifter go. And as I'm letting go of the dog, I can hear Teddy go, no, no, no. The dog and the jackrabbit take off through the chisel plow out of sight. And the dog doesn't come back for 15 minutes. Teddy's like, you shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have done that. You remember that? Shouldn't have done that. I don't know why you did that. And I'm like, I'm all like sad sack now, walking around. And so now the dog comes loping back to me, and the dog is literally bleeding out of every orifice bleeding out of everything. Her chest is bleeding. Her every toenail is broken. She's bleeding. Split her webs of her feet. Running, we were walking across this chisel plow, which was a half a mile out there, frozen, to get to a spot.
Oh,
and we should wait for that spot.
Right.
So the dog comes and she is shot.
He's a mess.
And I'm watching 2 months and hundreds of dollars of food and
conditioning
and fuel down the tubes. So we go, and Teddy had Keeper with us, and we put Keeper on a couple more jacks, the spot we were going to, and it gets dark and we go. And Keeper, I don't know if we caught in here, but Keeper ran his heart out, and he was a 5/8 Hancock cross from David Hancock, real nice dog. And so we get back we go to dinner someplace, and the beatings continue on Shawn, and these kids are just beating the crap. And finally, I think the Redland wear it off, and they all pass out and piles in the living room floor. And Teddy and I escape and go to bed. We wake up the next morning, and it's a short trip. We're going to hunt the morning and then get on a plane and go. So he's going to take us to this magic spot in the middle of Fargo into this park. We pull up to the park, and there is 15 white-tailed jackrabbits standing up looking at us like domesticated pets in this park. And he's just sitting there, they're looking. I go, oh my God. So I get my dog out, and Teddy gets her dog out, and she slips Keeper, and Keeper starts chasing one, and Grifter runs out and stops and just stands there like this. And here comes Keeper with the jack, and the jack runs 20 feet in front of her, and she just watches it run by. And I'm like, she was so hurting and so sore and so down that she couldn't even run the next day. And Keeper could barely run. Keeper could barely chase.
Jeez.
So we get back in the car, and the kids beat me up all the way to the check-in. And we take off, and we get on the plane, and I am just thoroughly disgusted. So Teddy and I are sitting on the plane. I don't drink, but I was considerably thinking about starting to drink right there on the flight home. And Teddy goes, so what do you think? Do you think we got jack dogs? Do you think your dog can be a jackrabbit dog? And I just looked at her, and I go, I'm never coming back here again.
Oh, man.
That's tough out there.
Yeah.
I'm imagining you sleep like you're laying in bed there, and you just hear the doorknob going. You got a chair underneath the doorknob just to jam so they can't get in.
Robbing.
That was their kid, but then they had like 4 other kids, and I tell you, I doubt there was 10 minutes other than when I was going to the bathroom that I didn't have a kid locked onto my neck and one on each arm, one trying to knock me down. It was like unbelievable.
They do that to me too. Kids just
like to hang off you.
Just like to harass me and disrespect me.
I don't have that problem.
Yeah, I got disrespected by 4 or 5 13-year-olds, and then the jackrabbits disrespected my dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've went out west and got spanked by jacks before.
Yeah.
It's a horrible feeling. It's just such a foreign land. You might as well be on Mars from the East Coast. You go out there and the wind's whipping and the 45-pound rabbits are running 90 miles an hour, And
see, the year before we went out and we had Poacher.
Right.
And Keeper.
Yeah.
Their brother, sister.
Great name.
We had Poacher and Keeper, and they were both litter mates. And that Poacher dog was good.
She was a killer.
Her one fault was that she was white.
Right.
And that was a big fault hunting on the East Coast because, as you know, sometimes you got to trespass across certain areas, or you don't want people to, even
see what
if
you're doing.
See what you're doing. And that dog had the police called on us multiple times because people saw the dog chasing one thing.
Dip her in some black dye.
It belonged to Teddy's neighbor. Teddy had gotten it for the neighbor, but we used to take it hunting. I think we even brought a half cross out there one time, didn't we? Or did Hugh
Francis had a half cross, half collie cross. Yeah, she
even caught a jack one time.
So the first trip, you guys were successful.
Yeah, we caught one.
Every now and then we caught one. So,
yeah.
But when I had Kahuna, the 7/8 cross, and Lee caught 2 in one day. That picture I have.
Yeah.
But it's not like you're going to get a dozen of them.
No.
And they run the legs off the dogs, and the dogs have so much heart. They come back.
Yeah, they're not. East Coast dogs, 200-yard runs. 0 to 60, not a minute and a half, 2.5 minute run. They can't handle that.
Yeah.
I don't care what. It's not in their breeding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where those nice Iranian Salukis come in.
Right.
Yeah. Where they just get warmed up at a minute.
Right.
Yeah.
I was in Kansas with a friend and for falconry purposes, and he had some GSPs or something like that. I don't know what they were, Drothars, some sort of bird dogs, and they were big, leggy, fast, pretty fast dogs.
Relatively.
Yeah, we went out into this huge field where there were tons of jacks, and the wind was just roaring that day. So there was no flying a bird, especially an East Coast bird that day. So we just let his dogs run around after jackrabbits, and they just don't have snowball's chance in hell of getting anywhere near those things. Those jacks were it was huge open field, and we're just standing there watching, and they're running after jacks for everything they have.
And I can tell you right now, like, not seeing those dogs run, but I would bet the farm that the lurchers we had could run backwards faster than them, and they couldn't catch them. Not in a jackrabbit, in my opinion, rates a dog, will run right in front of it,
right,
and know that what's going on. And when they feel that dog is making ground or do something, they'll take off faster. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, they'll play with the predator that's after them. You see it all the time with like eagles, and when you'll see the rabbit hauling, and then the bird swooping in, and you're like, I'm watching the video. I've never seen it in person, and then you just see the rabbit starts to slow down and then kind of stop, and then as soon as it's about to hit, it just jumps, or like they're like raiding. They're they live there. Yeah, right. They know what to do to get rid of the predators.
If there are tire tracks along the field, the jack will run in the field until he figures that dog is a problem, then he moves into the treads,
right,
and puts it in another gear.
Right,
really impressive animals.
Gives you respect for eagles when you see somebody doing falconry with a golden eagle, and they look like they're just slowly
But how fast they're going.
But they're gaining on this jackrabbit, but they're slowly pumping their wings.
It's an illusion. Yeah, we talked about it.
I wish we had access to jackrabbits here.
I think that big white bird I have would catch one.
There used to be.
Why don't you think in one hand?
Up in Western Jersey.
I was going to say Western Jersey used to have
the sod
just
farms.
Send me a pin. I don't know. I've heard this before, but I don't know where to go. And I will go.
I don't know if they're there anymore.
I'll go right now.
Well, you get your
I'll literally go right now.
Get your compendium, the game laws, and see when the season on jackrabbits is. Hares.
Just tell me where.
He doesn't care when
Because the Beagle guys run them.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
You know Chris Brown, the
Of
falconer,
course.
the woman?
She's got the scoop on it.
Well, she caught one years ago with a red tail.
I want to catch one.
I used to think it was the Far Hills because what they did is they brought them in,
for the Basset people. They bred them and released them.
English hares.
Oh, so they're not like...
They're not jacks.
No, they're not jacks. They're hares.
From the UK.
So then why would there be a season if they're like an invasive then?
It's like pheasants. They're not native.
Yeah.
Yeah, pheasants, I don't get
Lee caught one. Accidentally, my lurcher of 3/4 cross, she caught one.
And it was like just private sod farms?
We had permission on this particular farm, and we were after groundhogs, and a hare got up, and she ran it, but that thing ran right in the woods. But she stuck with it and caught it, and he said, put it in your pack because the Basset people stock these.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
interesting.
So I'd have to get I have to get permission.
It depends on where they are.
That's not really your style to get permission.
You know who used to live out there was Jacqueline Onassis, and she used to ride on a mounted pack out there.
Do I know who that is? I don't know who that is.
You don't know Jacqueline Onassis?
No.
Mrs.
Robert Kennedy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mrs. John Kennedy.
JFK's wife.
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
She married the Greek.
Yeah.
Rich Greek.
Feel stupid.
They didn't teach that in homeschool.
Yeah, we learned that.
Wasn't necessary.
Wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
Just for this moment, it would have been necessary. Other than that,
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mama Sue.
He doesn't know that, but you got to see him make brownies. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
No, bee's nest.
Yeah. He'll dissect the bee's nest, but he can't read.
Yeah.
He's an expert on bees nest.
My dad used to stop his bus, and he used to run, get a stick and knock the bee's nest down in the winter and bring them home for us to cut apart. So the joke is the kid can't read, but he'll tell you everything you need to know about a bee's nest.
Oh, okay.
Such a good joke.
Arcane knowledge, don't they call that?
Such a good joke.
Thank you guys for taking the time.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that.
Thanks for having us. Yeah,
Of course.
it was good.
Thanks for bringing my hunting partner home.
Yeah.
Briefly.
Yeah, and then the next time we see you is when me and Aaron come out by you. And we're gonna,
Out west.
We're inviting ourselves.
Out to California to see you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was right in Orange County, I heard. Right there.
Yeah. 2 miles from the beach.
Yep, that's it. That's where he lives.